Okay. Do 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 do. Right. Mm. Do, 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 do. Oh shoot. It is not the correct URL. Oh, what? The keyboard gonna copy? Alright, I think we're chilling. I think we are chill. Alright. Honestly, I think we just get into it. There's a whole lot going on, but things slow down significantly, or speed up significantly when we get to the Turf War games. But yeah, I'll kind of generally talk through, not really talk through, but if anyone has any reactions to the new patch, I'm definitely interested. Do 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 do. I actually think the new patch is gonna be quite a healthy meta, which could be me coping. Yo, welcome in, Vibey. Hello, hello, hello. How are you? Ooh, mommy, a rainmaker. Or a Reese. Do 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 do. Alright. So yeah, we got 7 review codes. Technically 6, because one of them there's duplicates, so I'll just do one of them, but actually no, it's the same code twice. So yeah, there's 6 of them we gotta go through, and yeah, we should do that. Alright. Let me get all this updated and then we'll jump into it. Which team are we? Orange. This is light to just. I believe this was open, if I'm not mistaken. Oh shoot, now I gotta look. It's gonna bother me otherwise. Yeah, what's up, Reese? Hello, hello. And... oh, series. Okay. Series. Sick. How you doing, Reese? These new patch notes are kind of weird. I don't know why the shot and zap buff mini got wait for special nerf. Yeah, I couldn't tell you the mini part of it, truthfully. I will say that I don't think the shot stuff will be like I don't think the shooter buffs are gonna be like they'll be probably like significant when playing them. But I think in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's gonna be quite as impactful as people might think. Because it's like, how do you explain it? There's a lot of counters to main weapon. Because like unless Super Chump is crazy, like Cooler and Zuka like aren't necessarily reliable retake specials. And I think that they're both pretty counterable. Like, will it be annoying? Yes. Will it be stale for some people to see the same shell in a lot of green? I should have green. Early. Oh, right on top. I think people are reacting. Yeah, I think so too. And I could totally be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that like if anything, it opens up the meta for so many different like weapons. So I think Zap Cooler and everything and Shot with Zuka, like those things have very clear weaknesses. Like I think you can have Zuka, like Zuka's a pretty flexible special. I think you can kind of throw it in wherever. Same thing with Tri-Strike. I think it's relatively flexible and you can kind of flex it in. But there are codes being accepted. I think after the patch tomorrow. So I think the patch actually comes out in like 2 days, but you download the patch tomorrow, I think. And so when you download it tomorrow, you don't get any of the new changes, I think. Wait, that was with the content. I honestly, I don't even know. I think it actually does, or no, I think it does just come out tomorrow. Like I think we just download it and we have all the new stuff tomorrow. But we shall see. But once a new patch comes out, then all of the old replay codes will be gone, and then any of the new replay codes will be available for the next, month and a half or until the new season or another random patch they decide to throw at us. So at that point, I'll open back the replay codes and we can get through. So give it another day, maybe 2, but I think tomorrow, I think everything resets and then we're good to go. Times out they usually happen. Isn't it like, I think it's like less than 24 hours. There was a tweet that talked about it, like the person that like not leaked it, but the person that said that there's a patch upcoming, they said the time, but I think it's usually like an hour after like the end of day reset. So I think like an hour and a half ago, I think is when it starts. Hey, what's up, Sons? And also welcome in Fizzy Bombs. Fizzy Bomb. I don't know why I said Fizzy Bombs. I don't know why I said the full. I just call you Fizzy. Anyways. Yeah, we're gonna look at Tetra stuff. We have 6 reviews. Technically, the 7th one was a duplicate, so 6 reviews. And yeah. But the one thing I will say is like, so there's 2 pieces just for patch real quick for people that are here. The first thing about the patch is if there's a consistent shell, like even if there's a consistent shell of like zap or even like double zap in certain situations or like a zap shot or something, like I don't think any other, like both kits are like strong, but they're not like broken. They're not as versatile as like Splash Kit or as versatile as Machine Kit. So I don't think we're gonna see them like completely get like doubled up, or like I don't think we're gonna see comps with just those 2 weapons and some combination of them. And I think that there are a lot of counters to them. Like Splatanas as a whole just counter short range shooters. Wiper does a good job. Stamper does, like Wiper does an amazing job. Stamper does a pretty solid job as well. I also think that it's kind of been proven that there's a lot of like mid-range options right now that are very solid. Between Squeezer, between Nautilus, I mean, like Jet stuff's still going to be pretty strong, I think. So we'll see. I know some people are coping with CDS and like the super chump buff, but I think CDS VDS is like okay right now. So if people try to force too much short range shooter, I think there's enough counters currently. Like neither is because like in Splatoon 2, like Zap had armor and Shot had missiles. And like they don't have that good of kits in this game. They have good kits, they don't have that good of kits. So if people try to overcommit to that in their comp, like there's a lot of counters. Yeah, I'll be playing Orange Zap whenever the new buff comes out, so. Or patch. And thank you for the hydrate. So, I don't know. I'm interested in what other people think, definitely. But for the most part, I think it was really, like, I think the changes were very good. And overall, I'm quite excited to see Junior armor. Honestly, Junior could go for having armor nowadays. All right, so we are light tetras. This is Rainmaker. This person was ahead of their time with the new patch. So we've talked about this a few times on this map. Tetra very good at playing in mid, dropping any which way, and just committing to plays. So you can play through mid, like you kind of want to be like Sharky around mid and drop on them, or you can look to take like the wider fights and just properly space yourself. I think last time we watched you play, I think it was on this map as well, Reese, if I'm not mistaken. But you did a really good job of spacing. But I think it's just trying to find good fights and committing at the right time to the right people. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Between Aerospray and Zap, we have like decent paint for our carbon. So our comp is a little bit low to the ground, but we have like a very aggressive comp, and like Super Chump honestly can kind of work with everything else that's here. So there's some flaws in this comp, but it's very sound. It all kind of wants to do the same thing. Undercover can be a little bit annoying compared to what you all want to do. They also have some aggro, which honestly there's no real good targets for their sploosh to like run at, but you know, it's still sploosh on Rainmaker and it's still hammer on Rainmaker. It's always potentially problematic. Jet can be a little, wait, what's the, is Jet line marker and Jet? I know it's Jet. Oh, it is line marker. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not sure. This, I like our comp a lot better. I think it has like this, the types of ideas that we want to be going for, and we can kind of just like hold forward and we'll be good to go. But as the Tetra, definitely if we can roll onto the Jet, that would be huge. And outside of that, we can space out the other ones. So understanding what target we're rolling into and spacing ourselves, either, you know, spacing ourselves to go really close for the Jet, or spacing ourselves farther away to outrange all of these options. That kind of in-game awareness and being able to adapt to those situations is going to be really important here. I don't think that we probably we can get Rainmaker, but I don't think we necessarily need to. But you know, with this map, I think both spots are very short to get from one to the other. So if you do get a wipe and you do have momentum, like if you are closest to pick it up, like just go ahead and get your points. But we'll see how it goes. Also, Zipcaster has some options against Jet as well to get to them, but I don't think Jet's quite as annoying of a main, like a backline, where you like need to use Zipcaster. Like if you, when you have Zipcaster, you probably will pop it onto their backline, but We'll see how it goes. It popped up in A tier. The worst to deal with. Yeah, rollers require getting a lot of paint out. But if they play fast enough and they play annoying enough, they're always just something you have to respect and deal with. We'll see how the opening goes. Oh yeah, also with Pop, honestly, there's a chance y'all can get it. Like, trying to get Pop against Sploosh is always difficult and always a little bit scary. And they do have a suction bomb, but I think y'all can probably go for Pop, honestly. If you don't go for it, it's totally fine, but I think if you commit, yeah, you should be fine. My shop continuing to move around. One thing I will say with the opening, we'll go to it after the pop, but it feels like we're tunneling a little bit, like in front of us. And like it might be because we're looking for like these targets over here. But, you know, and if you have like your audio up, you can hear this person flanking behind you up this wall. But we're a little bit unaware. And I also think that like we should be able to spot this out. The other thing is I would like us to move past the Rainmaker and try to take fights in front of it. Just because we're letting our teammates do our job and we do that job better. So I would try to do your best to be in the front lines. And you are running you're running run speed, which I'm not too sure about, but you are running quick respawn, which is important. I do like you getting in front. Your teammate forgot to, wait, is that replay issue or did they forgot to get checkpoint? I think they forgot to get checkpoint. Need more QR, gotcha. Yeah, I remember you're still trying to work on like finalizing your build and everything, so that makes sense. Yeah, I think they just didn't get checkpoint. Well, that jump in like makes sense. I think the idea generally is fine. That jump's a little bit more scary. Like I probably would just give up checkpoint, but fortunately your teammate gets a double before they go down. There's so much happening. I jump in carelessly. I mean, okay, so as a Tetra you kind of can, but also it's understanding like what value you get for jumping in. Carelessly. Like some careless jumps are higher value than others. It's hard to really explain, but like when you jumped in to like where the Rainmaker was after they stopped it, like that made sense. And then the jump after, like when your teammates are kind of in the middle of a fight, those jumps make a lot of sense. The last jump that you did was where they had multiple people around there and you didn't really have a teammate. Fortunately, your teammate was able to find a double, but they couldn't really scrap there, and there's a good chance you just immediately die, which even with quick respawn is probably not the best play, but yeah. I mean, when in doubt, I'd rather you overjump and then slowly learn. Like that's one thing that I would just keep in mind when you're playing the game. Like when you jump in, just try to get some like establish a feedback loop so that, you know, if you jump in and things work out or if things don't work out, like just try to analyze the situations of like where you're jumping in, how many teammates do you have, what's the paint like on the map, where's the objective. Start thinking about a lot of those things, and then over time you can kind of refine it. But I'd rather you err on the side of over jumping than under jumping as Tetra, and then over time you'll be able to reel it back in. So I would say this is a case of good idea, bad execution. A common thing that you'll see. So when this pop is happening like this, realistically, this pop probably should have happened. Like, I'm okay being a little bit slower because, especially with your teammate looking like they're backing up, like this person's gonna get overran and then they're gonna get the enemy team's gonna get this pop. So I'm okay with you being a little bit slower here. But there's like a quick moment, like right now, like it's almost at like half. And some of the other people are going into ink, which indicates to me that they're running low on ink. In these types of situations, I like you jumping in on them, but we should be jumping, or like we should be rolling in on them like wider. Like we know that there's one here, we know there's one here. And like if there's anyone else, which we know that there's one more, we don't think we knew it at the time, but if there's any one more here, like anyone else, they're probably going to be somewhere in this zone as well. So I would try to approach either of these targets that we just saw. Either go wide left or go wide right. Because we're positioned on top of the dome here, this like snipe area, I think it's probably better to commit to the right side. But I'd rather get closer to the ledge, try to find information on where someone's sitting here. Realistically, they're probably going to pop out of ink in a second and like start shooting the Rainmaker for the pop and like try to catch them at that point. Like rolling into them is good, but we don't want to roll directly into their entire team. We want to roll to the side and try to isolate the farthest target or the closest target to us. And then these targets that are farther away, just like they can't hit you and you can't hit them, which is fine. So again, I like the idea, but jumping on top of this pop is very dangerous. Like part of it's because you're jumping on the objective, but the other thing is like you're jumping in between multiple people, which is very scary. Yo, welcome in, Miko Mort. So we have to be a little bit careful there. Like again, good idea, but try to use, like try to be as wide as possible. This trade isn't bad, but one thing I will say, we'll back it up like 2 more seconds. I can tell based off of like the way that you're playing, like you see the jump and you want to punish it. I'm okay with you wanting to punish this jump, but try to get past this like vacuum kind of thing. Like instead of rolling left into the vacuum, like play around this wall. It'll give you cover against this Brella, like more cover than you would get otherwise than being out in the open. It's not going to be perfect. The Brella can still hit you, but try to get that cover and then like just totally circumnavigate this vacuum. Because like if we were like here is like okay, but we're out in the open. If we were sitting here instead, we at least get partial cover to this this Brella, and that way it guarantees that that vacuum's not part of the equation. But again, I like the idea. I think we were a little bit sloppy with how we're rolling in. I think we need to think a little bit more about when we use our rolls. We need to be more thoughtful about, you know, where is our end goal? Where would it make the most sense for us to kind of sit after we're done with our rolls? And, you know, being as wide as possible is good. Being near cover is really good. In certain cases, you can roll past them. Like if you were up top here, you could like drop and like roll past their entire team, which would be a good option. But we don't want to just like necessarily like roll into them. And I can understand you wanting to do like a left right strafe type of thing, but the situation is a lot more played out than you may initially think. Where that vacuum person is already watching your teammate. This Brella probably wants to move forward and help that vacuum, or maybe they might look for you potentially. But, you know, we can do a better job of isolating that one target by positioning ourselves away from their team being able to support that. So it's good you got the pick on the Got to pick on the Jet and the Inkvac, but I think we could have gotten that drop, like get that pick a lot easier. And that was the play we initially wanted to go for. Yeah. Same thing here. We're rolling into their team instead of rolling to the sides. I think when we go in like this, we want a target to isolate. And instead of rolling like this way, when we're up here, we see one like over here, we see one here, and there's also the Rainmaker here. So either you can roll, and like they're already fighting like these two people. Like if you're the center of attention, you might have to play it a little bit different, but you're coming in the middle of a fight. So you have like a lot more freedom with how you position yourself. Cause like these people aren't anticipating you. The enemy team is anticipating your teammates. So like step one is like, don't go into the same line of path that your teammates are going in. Cause it's like minor aim adjustments in order to like hit you. If you went like far right instead, again, you could isolate this target. Or, you know, it looks like this person's probably going to drop. If they see you, they may slow down and take a shot instead. So if you just sat here for like another half a second and like waited to see if the Rainmaker was committing to the drop, then you can like go wide over here and punish the Rainmaker, and then you can focus on those two after. But when we're looking to roll into the enemy team, again, it's a good idea, but we need to be very specific and deliberate with who we're attacking, and then optimizing our movement, optimizing our drop, our rolls. We need to optimize for whatever that one target is. After that, we can freestyle a little bit, but while we have the time, is the enemy team pushing past the Rainmaker? Oh no. It is one of those games. Yeah. This is another case where we're getting a little bit, I think last time it was TC on this map, and we were getting a little bit too focused on like playing around the objective. But we don't need to be the one to pick up. Like Rainmaker is very scary in this type of situation, but our teammate, like we had a shooter player that like popped the Rainmaker. Like let them focus on, like they can do a better job of like getting pain over here. They can get a bomb on top of this if the enemy team tries to run in and pick it up. This is the type of situation, like you jumped over here. I would like to see you over here and then use this Rainmaker as bait. And then, you know, roll to the side, find a target to isolate, and go for that initial play. Like we don't need to worry about the objective because we're getting the pop. We at least have a little bit of time and you already have people focusing on it. Also, when your teammates swim in, they're going to swim in and focus on the objective anyways. So try to look to play a little bit wider in these types of situations. I feel like if Tetra is a weapon that shouldn't grab a Rainmaker, playing around objective isn't as necessary. As something like a Zap. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There's a time and place. Like when they wiped, like there was a chance for you, like you and like another teammate were going for it. And like if the enemy team's wiped, like and you're there to pick up the Rainmaker, like just pick it up, get the checkpoint, it's fine. But yeah, we don't want to be the one to like focus on picking it up. Let the rest of our team do that. We want to focus on things that we're good at. Taking a shot with a Rainmaker. Yeah, over time, as you continue to rank up, you'll learn that like if you pick up the Rainmaker here, you're just immediately gonna get splatted. There's no world where you pick up the Rainmaker and like shoot shots at these people. Like that just, it takes too long. The game does not happen that slowly. But if your teammate, like if everyone was focusing, so if both teams are focusing on the objective and then you drop out this way, like after you're jumping, like these targets are just not looking at you. You want to try your best to take fights where the enemy team is like focused on something else and like on tower, on Rainmaker. Clam Blitz, Zone, like every mode to a certain extent, but like especially Tower Control, especially Rainmaker, since there's like a very specific object that you have to interact with. That has to move like in a certain direction in Tower Control's respect, or Rainmaker where you have to take it to a certain point. Like you can, those especially you can use to like try to use them as bait. Yeah, even if you meant, yeah, like there might be like 1 out of like 100 times like you pick this up and you get that play that you're looking for, but we want to look for more consistent plays, and we also want to look for plays that like allow us to play the game that we want to play. And again, when the enemy team's clumped up together, try to get into the habit of choosing one side or the other, find the closest person in this clump, or if there's a priority target, you know, in certain cases, like there might be specific targets that you'd rather hit instead, but just default to the person that's like closest to whatever side you're rolling on, and then just focus on like that type of play. That way it's easier. Like that game plan, and that game plan is going to need some adaptation as well, but that is a way better game plan than like doing the objective. Because yeah, like Makoma was saying, like if you wanted to do objective, like you play another weapon. I do not know how you rolled past that hammer, but we take it. Oof. Nice try. One thing I would mention in this type of situation, just because you have like enough time for a quick second to observe what's going on. Like in this situation, when you drop, you should see that it's like a 3v1. And this person's firing shots from over here. So you should immediately be like trying to just use this pit, like play Ring Around the Rosie with this person, like around this pillar, and just make sure that you survive. Like they got kind of fortunate with the shots that they hit, truthfully. But when you know this person's shooting you over here, like try not to climb onto the wall, because it gives them an opportunity to clean you up, especially when you're that low. Like in this situation, just stay alive somewhere in this area and let your teammates come in, and while the splash is still focusing you, your teammates can come in and clean this up. And this is where you can kind of bait for your teammates. Because you can see like your teammates are there like a half second later, so if you're able to stay alive for like half a second, that can make the difference. Like that you position a little bit wider there. Again, I don't like that we're ending up in the middle. Like with our rolls, I don't like that we're ending up in the middle of everything. Like this is great. This, you end up wide, you isolate a target that's closest to you. This is perfect. But you see, and then, you know, you moving over to this wall and then isolating a target in your line of sight, you know, like somewhere in this area that you're able to see, and then blocking off everyone else because you're behind this wall. This is a great idea. I love this idea. However, we end up getting greedy and we're like using the rest of our rolls to try to find these fights, which is like, okay. Again, the idea is okay, but what ends up happening is that we finish our rolls and we're sitting like out in the open. Like this person can hit us, this person can hit us. And if there's anyone else in this area, like we don't really cut the angle off from like anyone. Technically people over here, maybe, but we really want to be able to isolate targets, and like we're not isolating ourselves when we end up here with our rolls. Again, it's important to be very deliberate with what we're trying to accomplish. And I don't necessarily, like I see a general game plan, and I like that I see a general game plan, but we need to make that game plan more deliberate. And instead of like, I'm going to roll on the enemy team because I know they're generally over here, you need to change your thought process into like, I'm dropping on this splash, or I'm dropping on this jet, and then I'm going to focus my movement to optimize fighting that jet. Instead of trying to feel like you're taking on the world, try to feel like you're taking a 1v1 and try to find that 1v1. Thank you for the hydrate. Because we're constantly finding ourselves in the middle of the enemy team, And it's gonna cause us issues. We finally got the checkpoint. I don't hate our play. I think regardless of other plays that could have potentially been better, we could have gone past the Rainmaker, but even if we wanted to pop the Rainmaker and help with that, I probably would have got caught out by the Reef Slider behind us, so no worries there. We got checkpoint, we got points. Again, this is like a fine jump in, because if it doesn't work out, then you get to swim in. Like objectives on their side of the map, you have someone here to stall. Like this jump in is totally fine, because like you don't really get too punished, especially with Rainmaker, but the reward could potentially be massive. Yeah, this is the second time that we rolled into a hammer. We want to be avoidant of rolling into the hammer. And now we go forward like this. Okay, so we know the jet's coming out of spawn. Is there a way that we can isolate them? Let this play out. Oh shit, that's the end of the game? Oh, okay. So, I want to quickly go back to the final play and then we'll kind of get into the kind of overarching things. But when we have the wipe, I really, like, I can tell that you've been putting in effort after your like after wipes and stuff, like you're focusing on like moving past the objective and letting your teammates pick up objective. I really like this. This is great improvement from last time. When we start swimming forward, like there's nothing for us to fight. So when we're swimming forward like this, it's time for us to keep an eye on like the situation as a whole and really try to break down like the rest of this play. So we're already in this position. And it's just the inkjet up. So as we're swimming in, we can try to find where the inkjet is. We can see them dropping here. So we want to try to make a play to focus down this person. And what ends up happening is like you start rolling now, but we know that the inkjet is here. If we're, you know, I'm guessing in this spot we weren't observant and we tunneled a little bit. And we kind of, I guess we expected someone to be in this lane. But that's, again, an important part about wiping the enemy team is that you have like fully known information. You know where these people are going to be. So it's better for you to like swim up closer to this ramp. And I'd probably use this side because with the person dropping out right, like they're probably going to end up over here. So if you play over here, you potentially like, you know, there's a longer range fight outside of your range that the jet can win. But if you play on this side and you like roll into them, roll behind them, you know, get up close to make them uncomfortable, and then you can use your mobility to outplay them. But we're just rolling too fast. We don't have a game plan here. We need to come up with like general game plans. And I think this scenario, like we just wiped the enemy team, our teammates pushing Rainmaker up this path. And we know that the only person that can potentially bother us right now is this jet. So we have to come up for a game plan. Like, okay, we have a 1v1 against the jet. Jet's going to want a position, so... Oops. So Jet's going to want a position to stop the Rainmaker. So in this type of position, just based off of timing windows, the jet can either sit over here, or the jet might sit like up here. And like when we see them drop this way, that tells me that they're going to be playing for this area over here. Because if instead we saw them drop out this way when we were swimming in, then we can make an educated guess. Oh, they're probably going to play that far side, and you know, they're trying to get there as fast as possible. So those are the things we should be looking out for when we wipe the enemy team. But we see that this person drops, and we should expect them, like generally in this area, But we have some time in order to do that. And also because we're going in faster than the rest of our team, we also know that we have some time before the Rainmaker is even in range to take a fight with this Jet. So we need to like process all this information. Like this is our end goal. It's like process this information and come up with a game plan that best fits the mold of this situation. And this is where we just, you know, we should be able to predict. The match is simplified enough to where we should be able to predict what this Jet is going to do based off of the context clues that was been given to us and based off of the map geometry of like the potential options that they could sit in. And so we do end up getting the pick, but we get the pick mainly because this person is, you know, B+. This person isn't necessarily thinking optimally. And they're just trying to take a fight out in the open to stop the Rainmaker. But they could be doing the same thing like over here and have like more cover and not, or, you know, behind this block more specifically or behind this pillar more specifically. But, you know, they could be playing like farther over here to versus like sitting out in the middle, like, you know, literally being in front of the Rainmaker podium. And so we're kind of like, we're fortunate that this because again, this person should be seeing the same thing that you are. Like this person spawning in and they're like, oh, there's gonna be a Tetra that's gonna be rolling up the ramp. I'm gonna expect them, you know, they're either gonna be playing this side of the ramp or this side of the ramp, potentially underneath, but realistically, they're probably gonna push one of these sides of the ramp because they have enough time. And because I'm the longer range weapon, they're not gonna choose this one, they're gonna choose this one instead. So I'm gonna position myself to play around this person. And then maybe they do go for like, maybe they do reposition. Like they drop down here and then, you know, maybe they do play like on top of the podium or something to like counter what it is that you would be doing in this kind of situation. But we kind of like luck into this pick. Again, same thing here. We get this pick and we're just playing in the middle of the action. We don't want to be playing in the middle of the action. If we swim past the Rainmaker here and look for this other person that's dropping or getting behind this Brella, I like those plays better. There's also someone over here, but I think left is more open, so I'd rather us take this path. Because if we go right, like we can't really isolate because we're in the middle of these targets that are going to be watching. But this is how we need to formulate our game plan when playing this weapon. Yeah. Another minor thing, but when you're dropping off of a ledge to avoid certain players, like all of these are effectively shooter weapons, and the fact that they can't slosh over an edge or a wall. So for shooter type weapons, when we're backing up from this type of position, we want to hug this wall, like hug the closest cover and like play as close to this wall as possible. If you back up, it leaves a gap for them to be here and see you. But if you're underneath the wall instead, like if you're here instead and they're here, like they can't easily look down like this. They have to do some really awkward stuff that, which if they do that in this situation, it leaves them vulnerable for the rest of your team, which is just a Rainmaker, but even still, the time it takes for them to look down the ledge to find you over here, like A, you should have your rolls at that point, but B, like they're gonna get shut at by the Rainmaker and y'all look to get a pick. So they don't like, that's a very awkward play for them. So that's something that we want to be careful about, but you know, we get the pick and distract for long enough to get the pop and the score and the win. So we love to see that. But yeah, there's a couple of general stuff that I would like to see you apply and think about with your game. Maybe Undercover will get the same privilege. True. Undercover, I mean, Brella's kind of counter shooters, so if they work properly and they were strong enough. But that one day is not today. So a couple of things here. So we want to avoid fight in middle. Like whatever terrain we're on, like we don't want to be in the middle of it. The middle is very scary, very dangerous. It doesn't often give us a lot of cover. We want to play wide, generally. Slash, we can also drop on targets. Like when you were up here, which you would still technically be playing wide as well. But, you know, if you drop on a target and you have a very specific target in mind, then that's good. That'll be more successful on average than kind of what we're doing now. Drop. Yeah, if you drop on them or play wide, either way. So you want to pick. I guess this can be a separate point. But yeah, there's a lot of times where we're like rolling into the middle, or we'll be doing our rolls and everything, and then our final roll keeps us like in the very middle of the map, where we're getting fired at by two different people. And that's a habit that we really want to break. Second thing is like the fighting loop. So we need to position. I'm just gonna say like, first you need to find an advantageous position. So with Tetra, generally that'll either be like higher ground, like playing on top of this dome, or if you're playing on mid and you have the option to drop literally anywhere. So we want to find some sort of advantageous position, you know, where like they don't know where we are, but we potentially can find them. So we need to like situate ourselves first. And sometimes that'll be jump-ins as well. Like, even though jump-ins aren't necessarily advantageous, like sometimes this can also be replaced with situations where we're jumping in. The second thing, which is the missing link. So I'm going to star this. This is the missing link of what we were missing in this game. So we need to find specific, emphasis on specific, emphasis on specific target. You need to know specifically what you're fighting against. And it's important to know what you're fighting against because then, you know, you have to play your engagement slightly differently. If you're playing versus a blaster versus a shooter versus a charger, you know, versus whatever, you know, even an umbrella in this game or an undercover, we need to figure that out. So find that target. After that, we need to plan our attack. So we've gotten, this is like the intel. First, we need to scout out the enemy team. You know, do some recon, gather some intel. Then we need to game plan. And again, these plans are like moment to moment. They're not going to be perfect, but we need to have something. The way that you improve in this game is to come up with an idea, a strategy, a plan of attack, and then you iterate off of it. But if we're not thinking about a specific plan, even if it's right or wrong, if we don't have a specific plan we're going for, we're not going to be able to improve. Because at that point, we're just randomly going in, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But we want to like we need to, in order for us to improve, we need to have like data for us to be able to do stuff. Again, like with a science experiment or something, like if you were playing yo, Grave, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you. So if let's say that you were trying to do an experiment where like you were making like those volcanoes or whatever that people always do for science fair, and you're like, okay, what's like the maximum like volcano that I can make? And so, you know, you may change like the size of the volcano or like the top of the volcano. You might change the amount of, is it baking soda? I don't even know. I never did the volcano. I think it's baking soda. And like you can change like the amount of baking soda that can make a difference. The amount of liquid, maybe the type of liquid, you know. And in order to do it, we need to keep certain variables like consistent in order for us to yeah, take care. I'll have the rest of this on YouTube if you want to go back. But yeah, isolating the different types. So like you want to experiment with like the different amounts of baking soda, or you might want to experiment with different types of liquids. But you can't change, like if you change them all at once, you don't really have any good usable data. Like if you change the shape of the volcano and we change the amount that we're doing for the baking soda, and I'm assuming it's baking soda. And then like if we change the liquid, so if we use Coke for one experiment and then we increase the baking soda the next time while also changing, going from Coke to Pepsi or something. Like if we keep changing too many variables, we're not going to really know why the changes that we made a difference. And so that's why it's really important to have a game plan, because there's constantly changing variables. Some are in our control, some of them are out of our control. And then and only then do we want to engage the opponent. But like we're going from like finding, like getting into a position. Like I think we're doing a good job of like getting into positions to be able to start rolling at them. But we're like skipping onto the engage part. And we're not doing like the strategy thing. And as much as, especially with the new patch coming out, with the cooler and main weapon and fast-paced shooter and everything, as much as we want to think of Splatoon as like this fun shooter where, you know, the best mechanics at any moment is what wins. At the end of the day, Splatoon is a strategy game, which I know for some people, like they don't like hearing that. Some people don't want to think about Splatoon as a strategy game. They just want to fight people and roll around. But Splatoon, we have to, this is like, we got to turn on our brain before we can start like playing the game and fighting them. And it's really important to do this part, because this part is what gives us consistency. There's a certain degree of consistency with our mechanics and how we like actually, you know, are we able to track people properly? Are we able to, you know, press our buttons in the right combination and gyro our way to the pick? But in order for us to consistently be able to have success against different opponents across longer amounts of games, we need to be very familiar with this like loop. We need to familiarize ourselves with the loop, and we need to respect the loop. I didn't see us respecting the loop. And the third thing is kind of Tetris specific, but I mean, other weapons can do it as well. Like even though Zap is a lot of times going to be focusing on objective, like Zap can use this as well. Like it context matters, but use the objective as bait. which means you want to position off. It's important for us to position off the objective. And then we punish opponents that are like super focused on objective. And this is something that works at like basically all levels. You know, even in my games, there's opportunities where people are like, it's a skill to like be able to read opponents and understand like when they're going to commit to Rainmaker versus when they're not going to. Sometimes like their positioning will show that. Sometimes you can gather that information as you play the game. Like throughout the match, you can kind of adapt and understand different people's tendencies and habits. Sometimes the context really matters. Like if the enemy team feels very pressured, they might overly focus on the objective. But yes, you use the objective, and this works in every mode, but specifically it's easiest to visualize in tower control and the Rainmaker because there's a very specific tangible thing. Zones kind of as well, but it's a little bit different because it's not moving. But like these modes specifically, like we can really take advantage of this, but it works in all modes. So we were finding ourselves like trying to do the objective, and like we were the ones inadvertently baiting ourselves by staying, you know, trying to immediately go to the Rainmaker after you get it. And we need to be a little bit more, you know, again, it comes back to like having a game plan, which like it sounded like in one of those situations you did have a game plan where you're like, I'm going to pick up the Rainmaker, I'm going to take a shot at someone. So like that's a fine baseline. But when you have time, you're VOD reviewing or like you take time to think about it, you should be able to think like, you know, is me picking up Rainmaker that the entire team is like both teams are focusing on? Is it feasible for me to pick that up, be able to stay alive long enough to get a shot off, and then also be able to successfully hit a target after all that time of me picking it up, charging it up, and shooting it? And then over time, you'll come to the conclusion, like, that's a very unlikely play to be able to occur. Hey, what's up, Jorge? Hello, hello. How are you? Because yeah, like 12 deaths on a Tetra isn't bad, but the quality of these deaths were hit or miss. And there's probably about half of them that just didn't need to happen, or they didn't need to happen where they happened. Maybe they happened because we missed shots and, you know, we position ourselves properly, but we just like fail in the execution. And at that point, it's like, okay. But yeah, that's definitely something that we're going to want to continue to improve on. I do like the progress that we saw of taking space and moving past the objective outside of scenarios where we baited ourselves into trying to pick it up. But outside of those situations, like at the end there, like we were able to get that, like we were able to win the match in part because we were able to find that pick on the Jett. And even in spots where we didn't get value out of moving forward, it's still a good habit to do that. So I like, especially like when you get wipes and everything, you're like looking to move past the Rainmaker and move forward. So definitely kudos on that. I couldn't tell if aiming's easier for you if you spam rolls, but no one's looking. Just turret mode and shoot at them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's a good question as a Tetra player. I'm not really sure what people's comfort zones are, but I would imagine, yeah, standing in place and shooting, like you can have that luxury if you isolate the target and you play wide. And then once someone sees you, then you can start moving around. The other nice thing about that is that if you sit in turret mode for long enough, like your rolls reset. And then you're able to go in and, you know, you get more rolls during that same process. So definitely try to work on the, like you want to kind of like be smart and like in some ways like hidden when you're trying to hunt people down with like a Tetra. Like once we're ready to move in, we have a lot of mobility to like track them down, but we need to, yo, Daniel, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you. But we're not doing grinding on undercover. Nice. But yeah, the biggest thing is working on that game plan. Because there's a lot of situations where we, like, again, it's good idea, bad execution. And in order for you to be able to play your future matches and say, you know, to be able to decipher if the execution is the problem or the idea was the problem, you know, we need to be coming up with that game plan ahead of time and then watching our VOD back after the fact or thinking about the game after the fact, depending on how good your memory is. Like some people can like memorize games, but yeah, that's definitely, it's probably the biggest area of improvement that we can work on. So I think we're just autopiloting of just trying to play to just front and center of things. Where you do want to be in front as a Tetra, but you don't want to be in the center of things. You want to isolate. Because you're going to be playing, you have more mobility and you can always move up faster than the rest of your team. So in a lot of cases, you're not going to initially be fighting with your team. So either you need to find a pick or you need to, shoot, I always forget to check if its series are open. But yeah, because you're going to be in front of your team, you either have to position yourself to stay alive or you have to position yourself to like really focus on the pick itself. So. Oopsies. Let me update this. ZF. And then this is open. S+5. My secret main weapon. Let's go. Sorry, it's S+10, not S+5. Oops. Okay. So. The notes they have, they said they mean Squeezer, but they're trying to flex backline and other mid lines. Used to be a charger player back in Splatoon 2. Wanted to know how you can get better with the weapon. Okay. Cool. So, I think the biggest thing when playing charger is just knowing like generally where we want to position. They pick zone, so I'm happy. And generally on this map, the ideal place for you to sit with charger when fighting for mid is like basically like this area here, like somewhere in this shaded region. We want to sit with our charger. And why is that? Because we have a block here to sit behind. We have a block here to sit behind. You know, there's two side lanes in order for like that they have to cross through, or they have to cross through mid in order to get to us, which keeps us very safe. And we also have great visibility. You know, we're sitting on high ground, or there's not a ton of high ground on this map, but relatively in mid, this is like as high of high ground as you're going to get. And we can move over, watch this side. We can move over, watch the right side. We can always keep an eye on mid. There's just a lot of flexibility. And again, once we have, so like if we take control of their side, then we're going to want to play on their side of zone. Like we want to play in front of the zone on their plat area over here. And why is that? Because we have this block. We have extra height over here. We can always drop back if we need to. And we're able to watch. You know, we can check this angle. We can check at this angle, this angle. All the areas that they could potentially drop through, we can cover safely from this area. We can always retreat if we need to. The other thing that you can do, especially with like just other chargers and Firefin specifically, because it has a wall, but V-Charger is okay at doing this as well. But sometimes you can push past, like even though this is generally where you'd want to be, sometimes you can move a little bit further forward if you need to. And the reasons why you'd want to move farther forward is to catch the enemy off guard with the extra range. You know, like if they expect you to be sitting here as like the farthest forward on the map, then like there's a certain, I don't know what the range is, but like let's just say the range is like here. It's like there's a certain range that like if they're behind this, they can move around, however. And so a lot of times people might play like, you know, like maybe like right here. Or even just like back, like it's a farther range than this, but just whatever that range is, you know, they might play like into the line. And if you're able to like move forward a tiny bit, which a lot of times, sometimes people will like jump off of the ledge to get that little extra range if someone's not respecting you, if they're sitting in the open outside of your range. But yeah, the other thing is like you can get other angles if you move farther forward. So like, you know, if your team has like decent control, like you can look to move up, and you want to try to move up behind cover. But there's a lot of areas that you can peek and find other exactly 6.32 centimeters more. Thank you for keeping track. There's not a ton of angles in mid where you'd necessarily want to do that, but especially when you're moving forward, like you can play off of this plot and like instead move up to like this cover, or you can push up and like peek, which like left hand peeking isn't ideal, but if the extra space gives you an opportunity, because like if you're sitting back, if you're only sitting on this plot, then like you can't interact with like any of these people. And like there's only part of this back plot, and realistically it's like this because you can't really see, you don't have a vantage point here. But if, you know, you wanted to catch someone off guard sitting in any of these spots, then that's where you can move up behind like one of these pieces of cover and be able to like quickly peek out and like catch them off guard with them trying to set up. So because Charger's a lot faster than something like an E-liter, you have more flexibility to be able to do that. But if you're going to move forward like that, which is definitely a good habit to get into because you want to try to maximize as much of the Charger as you can, always try to find like a path to be able to back out in if you need to. I have this weapon 5-starred. Holy. Expectations are too high for open. Alright, so we'll see how we position at the beginning. Oh yeah, and generally with comps, we outrange all their teams, so I always say it, but like you can play pretty big. Like you can probably sit on top of this block if it gives you enough range and like a better angle at pushing people, like hitting people. So we don't have to like fight against another Charger. I mean, playing back here is totally fine as well, but we can be a little bit more aggressive when we know that we have the most range. As long as we're not, you know, we still have to respect, especially this is probably the other longest range. We have to be respectful of that. We have to be respectful of 52 being able to charge at us. So we can't put ourselves in too much danger and put so much risk that this person can't run at us or this person can't, you know, get into our range. But overall, I feel pretty good with our comp. We have Blob. Blob is the GOAT, so we're chilling. So, again, this is a very standard position with Charger, but standard's good. Sometimes playing off of the standard is good over time, again, to catch people off guard and to subvert their expectations. But in general, stay in the good spot until you have a plan. This goes back to, you don't want to just take an off position because, oh, it's different. And people are going to expect me over there. Like, you should have in game, you should have a very specific reason of why you're playing off of like the default positions. Because those default positions with Charger are for a reason. Nice shots. Yo, what's up, G-Doc, though? 4:33 and you can't sleep? Oh, no. It's not even Friday. It's like the middle of the week. I'm sorry to hear. But I'm doing well. Doing really well. It's going to be a long week for me, but we got new patch, so very excited. Help me. I don't know. People have different ways of middle of the week insomnia woes. I've been there. Will be there probably sooner rather than later. I don't know. I feel like everyone has like a different sleep routine that works for them. If I throw on like some sort of long form YouTube video, I can usually go to sleep. That's my go-to. If I can distract myself to go to sleep. But I've never, sometimes I'm a heavy sleeper, sometimes I'm a light sleeper, but I can like get to sleep like no problem at all. If I'm tired, not tired, like I can get into bed like without a problem. So fortunately for me, I don't really have this issue. Sometimes I do if I'm like overly anxious for like an upcoming event, but yeah. Ooh, nice shots. Good job respecting. Oh my goodness. I'm kind of just popping off. As a dangerous play to go for, but I can respect it. I'd probably allow my teammates to go for that, but when you're hitting everything, it's okay to overheat a little bit. Not gonna talk about my sleep. Oh no. Ouch. Yeah, if we're not running stealth jump, which I don't think we really want to as a, I could be wrong, but I don't think we really want to run it as a Charger. So we need to be very specific. Like we jumped out in the open and we can't do that without stealth jump. If we had stealth jump, that jump was okay. It's not 4:35 a.m. Oh no. We gotta find some sleep. Yeah, ideally in these situations, our teammates would be able to find jump, like give us better jump opportunities, but I don't hate you trying to go for the KO and like get those jumps to potentially help your team to do so. Nice shots. Ooh. Oh my. Yeah, I like these little plays. This isn't really a critique, this is just like highlighting this type of idea. But like, when this person's this close, like we could back up enough to be able to get a good position on them, but when we have teammates around to like help us push, this is like a very non-committal type of play. Like we're using this wall as cover. And it's like, if this person pushes through, like I have the shot on them. If they don't push through, like at least it's pain. At least I'm like, staying behind cover. Like this is keeping ourselves safe while still taking a relatively aggressive position. So even though we don't get the pick here, like this idea is great. Because this person is pushing, they probably even hear us charging, but there's no way this person can punish us. Again, they're playing a shooter, so they have to shoot. Since we're sitting behind this wall, they don't have a good angle on us. So they'd have to push past this in order to get an angle. And if they push past, then our junior that's here helps us. So we're doing a really good job of just constantly playing behind cover. A dude sniping streaming. I saw dude hit the 360 on Mako. There's like a Twitter clip or something. I didn't know dude was so cracked on the on the Charger. But yeah, our shots have been really, really good this game. $720. Yeah, their Charger play is very impressive. I can tell they've been playing it since Splatoon 2. Nice job going for the partials to, you know, try to find those picks. Unfortunately, didn't get it with the initial partial, but I like the idea. It helps your teammates that are able to do that. Just us. Dude is different. Dude is dude for a reason. And again, I like our use of walls. Like, we're able to place walls to also take like somewhat unconventional angles. The nice part about this angle is that we're able to easily drop out and like back up. This is like a perfect example of like, as a charger, we can take, because realistically we shouldn't be able to be this far forward because the enemy team is likely going to start pushing us. But we have enough of a timing window and enough cover with our splash ball to like play up here, look for that first opportunity. We don't get it. Okay, it's time to move back. Again, this is very, very solid. Whew. A little back up here because we know that there's a chance for the 52 to potentially push us, so already pre-positioning for that. This gameplay is very, very solid. Oh, nice try. Our team needs to like get a charge ready. I don't mind this jump just because like we're in a desperation mode. It looks like they're gonna end here. I'm gonna stop it before it KOs just to save some time. Can't even hit normals. Yeah, it's tough. The one thing I would say about this entire situation, which I don't think is necessarily our fault, but like our team needs to like build specials. I don't think that we're the problem necessarily, but I feel like we're positioning ourselves in a way that like the enemy like the rest of our teammates are like trying to constantly take fights, which again, that's not our problem, but like we didn't really save up for like any sort of special during all of this. So we don't really have a good opportunity to like go for a retake. This whole play is like good and makes sense. It's like in that situation, we could have focused our priority onto the plat instead of watching mid to better support our teammate. But like, I'm fine with the way that we're playing. Like, our teammates are bunching up in bad spots. It's not really our problem. This situation, we probably don't have to poke out here. Although, I would expect the whale to, I mean, our wall to like zone off the 52, but we do leave like a gap. Like, it's really minor, but like this gap that we leave, there's a certain amount of respect that we have to have that someone can potentially push us in this situation. Yeah, but they were sitting like right here, so again, it's tough. Yeah, I just think as a team, we never really had like good specials to look to push with. I do think some of our jumps were a little bit needless, but I don't know, overall, like we played this really well. Like mechanically, our positioning, like I think all of it was like very, very solid. It's tough. The only, like really the only things I could say, like this is like a very clean game. I think this is a game where we can blame our teammates for not using their bombs, not using their paint, and not slowing down to be able to find an opening. They just kind of like charged in, which we could potentially like look to take spots to help them versus trying to take a fight into mid. Because like when we look in the mid like this, like we're taking a fight over here, they're taking a fight over here, and we're not necessarily coordinating what we're trying to do. But our teammate that's pushing in should be a little bit more disciplined. So I don't know. I would probably put a fair share of blame onto your own team. I think we were probably too greedy on the super jumps. I think there was like 2 or 3 times in a row, at least 2, maybe 3 times in a row that we ended up getting splatted. And like I think the first super jump, because your team was still kind of in the fight, and it's unfortunate you go down. But like jumping in those spots just to have a small chance, which is like it was an okay chance at like keeping the zone. I'm okay with those jumps. Because unfortunately you got punished, but like I think those are generally okay. But in general, we want to only jump to team. Specifically, like either behind cover or if they're like out of play. And by out of play, I mean like if you're jumping to a teammate that's like sitting here, it's like contextually landing here could be really bad. If the enemy team is sitting in these types of spots and they're ready to punish you, then this jump's really bad. But the enemy team's playing like all the way back here, and they're playing like, you know, they're pushing in from spawn and they're moving into position. Like this type of jump contextually is okay because it's out of play from the rest of the game. So I don't know. There were some times where neither of these conditions were met, and we ended up getting like pretty punished for it. And some of that started the rally that the enemy team had to like win the game. So again, usually it was like 2 or 3 jumps in a row where like the first jump's okay, second jump's like, and by the third time we should not be going for it. So a little bit more discipline there. The only other thing I'd really say, which like this is also contextual. This isn't a blatant mistake because I don't think we really made the mistake here. But try to focus like areas of map that we're trying to retake. And like realistically, if our teammates are over here and we're like sitting here, like any teammates that are in this type of position, like they're probably going to push over here before they start taking mid. And again, this is more like these people really should be waiting for multiple teammates. And then they have 2 or 3 of them that are like pushing together. But if one of them's going a little bit forward on their own, then at least in this situation, like try to give them 1 or 2 shots. Still be mindful of a potential flank opportunity from this side area, but if you can hit a shot to help secure them plat, that's potentially more valuable than catching someone off in mid. Because all of that paint, all of that damage, anything that you, even like if you hit the shot, it's great, but even if you don't hit the shot, like that still helps with like what your teammates are trying to do. But I don't know. Overall, is a very clean game. Our shots were good. Our positioning was creative. We went aggressive when we needed to. We kind of played very safe and covered ourselves with wall and with how we positioned. So I think this was a very good game. I think our teammates probably needed to do a better job of coordinating, which again, in certain cases, this point 2 here, like the second point that I tried to make, is that we can use some of our paint and we can use some of our presence to try to get picks, like wherever these people are trying to go. And like in a lot of cases, we did that really well, especially like when we were on our plot, like the back of our plot and like trying to tap shot and partial people that are pushing our team. Like, I think we're aware of doing that, but yeah, honestly, I think these people needed to just paint for special and we had like a chance at holding there, but overall, very, very good gunplay, and that felt very solid. Just be a little bit careful about some of the lazy super jumps as like the only real like bad critique. This is all contextual, and I think for the most part, you actually made the right decisions. Some of them are like, it depends, and some people may have criticisms for it, but I think for number 2, like in this game, like I think it was pretty solid. This is like the only real mistake, which didn't really lose us the game, but it made it harder for us to retake in certain spots. That was a really good game. Really, really, really good game. Alright. So I think we have like 4 more left. They have both a replay code and a YouTube video, but I don't have the YouTube video set up fully integrated, which I probably should, but we're just gonna do the replay and kind of continue on. I think when I did low ink replay with Lily, I think that was Sunday evening. I'm pretty sure we saw this team, if it's the same team I'm thinking of. So this is X rank. I think Mert was on the team. I'm trying to remember the name of their team. I think it was like the... I don't remember the acronym, but I think this team's pretty... I think it's familiar. Yo, welcome in, DJ Cloaker. Thought I'd never seen a stream title like this. One of a kind. Yeah, I think people do like some reviews, but I put a lot of emphasis on doing them recently. I've had a really good time with them, and there's been a pretty good reception around it. So, it's definitely going to be an ongoing thing for these types of streams. I'll probably do a mix more. Right now, I'm doing basically all reviews during the stream, and I'm not really playing as much on stream. I'm going to balance it so there's a better mix of like open with people in chat, because I like playing open with you all and like trying to go for like high powers and stuff. That's always a fun little challenge. There's also like, I just want to play X rank. I want to continue to climb and talk through my thought process for that. And then like potentially like scrim and team stuff. I've been like hit or miss on wanting to do that. But that is also a fun thing to do. Wait, what weapon are we playing? We're Splash Neo, right? Yeah, so just do Neo Splash. And this is X rank. But how are you, DJ Cloaker? How are things? It's about 2200 power. I thought they were in low ink. Yeah, no, they were definitely in low ink. I can't remember though. Which team? It's gonna bug me. I'm gonna remember it after stream, but either way, they had a fun showing for that stream. Sounds fun. Never did hit high powers, but this is your first Splatoon game? Nice, nice. Yeah, definitely take it slow. Enjoy yourselves. Yo, what's up, Vapor? Good morning. Wait a minute. Vapor, how do you feel about the patch? What are your initial thoughts? What are your harsh reactions? Doing fairly well. Yeah, definitely. Not changing much. I think that's fair. I think some of the stuff that was already strong like gets a little bit more reinforced, but yeah. I think it's going to be a similar-ish meta. And I think at 21, that's very solid. Especially for your first game, it takes a while to get to that consistency, so that's good to hear. Oh yeah, we're playing a video game here. So we're looking at Clams. Clams is really interesting. This map is interesting because of the bridge and the timer, wherever that may be. Somewhere on this map is a timer over here. I can't really tell on the overhead. My brain isn't working. But yeah, if we can push while the bridge is like open and you can like push through it, usually pretty good. Sometimes you can have off flanks here. Sometimes you can go for like these really far flanks, but in spots it's important to hold this area, but like we don't necessarily want to extend it outside of like a brush or very specific weapons, which we do have a brush this game, so that could potentially be something that we can work with. But as we look at our team comp, honestly, it's pretty well balanced. We have like a bit of a front line with the brush, not the like it's kind of also doing its own thing, but you know, we're pretty self-reliant, can do a lot of like provide a lot of paint and setup for pushes. Same thing with Jet. We're kind of similar roles here, but we can flex to be a little bit more aggressive when we need to be. But we have a lot of chip, we have a lot of stall, we have nice specials. And this like it's not bad, it's not great with Whale, but we have a lot of ways to like push the enemy team. When we look at the other team, missiles are pretty good for moving in. Wavebreaker can be a little bit annoying. Crab is Crab and Zuka. It's still a little bit scary for them to kind of go for picks, so. I think the biggest thing that I want to see from us this game is like timing our specials. And I think in general, I want us to be playing around, like I think we let the machine and I think we let the brush in most cases like do the flanks and the dirty work for us. I think we want to kind of establish control in mid, get like general paint all around mid, and like once you have the once the bridge is down, I really want us to have our special ready. I want us to have proper clams. I want us to be able to kind of like force these fights and these engagements. Because we don't really want to take any of these fights straight up, but we do, like we can force a little bit with our tri-strike. So both comps are pretty solid. But we can certainly go aggressive if we need to be. But I just want to make sure that we're establishing enough control. Probably gave a little bit too much respect to those missiles. Like we probably could have been painting and already had special by this point, but it's okay. On this map, especially like when the Wiper's painting for missiles, they're probably going to use missiles like pretty far away. So there's quite a bit of travel time before the missiles actually get to us. So we can kind of predict that. Yeah, we have to be careful about the way that we're moving here. I know that you're like a competitive player, so I'm going to be a little bit more nitpicky than in other scenarios. Also, they mentioned that there's how to deal with intense lag, which you may see in the video. I think trying not to get into your head too much and, you know, just do the best you can. But yeah, focusing on game sense is their big thing. So when it comes to game sense, one thing I would recognize V-Splash is nerfed slightly. I think V-Splash is in a pretty tough spot, to be honest. Like comparatively, it's a good flexible weapon, but I think comparatively, it's like not. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna see a ton of play. Like it's always okay, but I don't know at high levels if it's actually gonna see play. So yeah, one thing when it comes to awareness in this situation, after these missiles, like one of our teammates went down. Like one teammate is down. We see one teammate over here, and the jet that was with us is pushing over to the left side because they're like avoiding missiles and they don't want to drag their missiles onto you. So as we move forward, one thing we need to recognize when we're moving forward up here, this is a complete solo mission. And we're playing a complete solo mission against something with a better bomb to fight with that's the same range as us, something that outranges us, something that outranges us, something that outranges us. So there isn't really like a good fight that we can take moving forward here. Quickly peeking out, coming back, this is great. I'm fine with this. But once this person pops jet, we don't want to end up like out in the open. I understand it's kind of like we're just kind of reacting in this situation. But ideally we want to like back up and use this little coverage behind, or we move forward and we like push this person and either get the clean pick or look for a trade potentially. But like we don't really want to hesitate here, because when we're in this situation, like we leave ourselves open to, because there's two people down here and we didn't get either of those picks. So there's a chance that like one of them goes for this play that the blaster is going for. But the other problem is like when we move this way, like this person has been able to move backwards while we haven't, like we're still out in the open. So this person gets another free shot on us. And ideally we want to like get behind cover after the first shot. So like even if we don't die to the Zuka, we probably die to the blaster or like other situations. And I think we can probably back up a little bit because again, we don't have like, we know that we don't have any teammates in that situation. I think we want to be like, you know, it's just general stuff, but try to keep moving even after we miss a few fights. Just keep it moving. Ouch. So coming back in, we see our teammate goes down. We see the fight happening. This is great. After we get this pick, it's like after we get this pick, when we start moving, this should give us a tiny bit of time to like check the overhead, check the UI, see what's happening. We see Shot has a special. I mean, you know, we should also be potentially scared about missiles, although we have more time to react to missiles. But like Zuka and Crab are things that we can immediately get popped by if we're not careful. Yo, what's up, Bab? The Bab breathe. Holy. How was the stream, my friend? How did things go? If you do not follow Bab, you should absolutely follow Bab. He is the GOAT. He does a lot of art. He is a competitive player. Has been partaking in a lot of X rank recently, which is always a bit of a toll on the mental, but glad to see you made it out alive. Were you playing Stamper, Wiper? What was on the plate? But yeah, thank you so much for the raid, my friend. I'll have I still have a couple more cans of Baja Blast. I'm real excited. Hate it. Feels bad. So yeah, when all of this happens and we know that there's someone up here, like we need to be respectful of any potential specials here. So I think the mistake here is like after we get the pick on the blaster, once we like moving to this cover regardless is really good. But as we're moving, we should be able to identify if anyone has a special, and we need to be respectful of it. And we didn't respect that Shot had special, and they did a great job of punishing us. We just autopilot a little bit too hard. Even if they didn't have special, us climbing up like this while they're able to still climb back, like they outrange us. Like, because you were just running, your positioning is like, you're just moving, like slowly moving forward at them while you're shooting. Like this person's gonna outrange you. So even if they don't have Zuka, it's still a bad fight, but we should be checking for Zuka. We should be checking for Crab. We can like potentially like look to pop up real quick up the wall and then go back down behind cover and try to bait out the Zuka. I'm okay with us going for this play to bait out the Zuka and then immediately get back down. But we just full sent it, which if they had their main weapon or special, like I think we lose that either way. Humpback? Yuck. Why would you play Humpback? Why would they bring back Humpback? How did they bring back Humpback before Reef? I thought we data mined Reef. That's the dirtiest trick that the Splatoon devs did to us. Is to make us believe very early on in the game that we were getting Reef back. At this point, I don't even know. Yeah, I can definitely see latency being a frustration here. But like you said with the game sense, like a lot of the issues that we're seeing here aren't like game sense issues. Okay, this game does go on for longer. I was about to say, did we get the KO? I was saying that last night. It is real though. That's tough. We had an opportunity to get the second pick. I don't hate it. And I like that we slowed it down a little bit and waited for the person to be sharking on the uninkable before we started approaching the, I think it was the shot. Yeah, our whole team is down, push is dead. We just need to try to build our special. I don't think we've really used our special at all this game. I think we should be painting for it before we do anything else. There we go. I don't know if they pressured us enough to warrant immediately using special, but they started pressuring after, so it kind of worked out. Could play Zap, but Zap is not hot. Sorry, Orange Zap is going to be broken next patch, Copium. In 24 hours, we'll be going double Orange Zap, terrorizing all of solo queue. Favorite map in all of Splatoon? Honestly, I'm a big Reef fan. Reef was one of the few maps that like all the modes work on pretty well generally. Like TC's a little bit scuffed, Rainmaker's quite scuffed, but I don't know. I enjoyed them. Like none of them were like bad. May go back to Tri-Stringer. I'm excited to see how Tri-Stringer does. I think the movement speed buff is like exactly what it needed. On top of the little damage combo stuff. How did we take this fight here? Sorry, I wasn't only doing a little bit of. Yeah, we got some. Fizzy's the resident Tri-Stringer main. Video on Murray Towers. Honestly, Murray Towers wouldn't be as bad in this game. But also, I don't want to play it. Yeah, as a good shark by them. I don't blame you wanting to kind of move out. You could have thrown a bomb. Like sometimes in those spots, like I'm glad that you're checking in this area. The problem with checking in this type of position is like if there is someone here, like you're isolated, like you're just kind of done. Again, all these things outrange you. Ideally, when you're peening and checking this area, either you're sitting behind cover or you outrange the thing that you're trying to check for. But as a Splash Neo, we don't really do either of those. So because of that, because we don't outrange these weapons and we don't have cover when we're painting for this because it's just out in the open with an uninkable, I think it makes more sense for me to throw a bomb, but I think what you did was reasonable, but it is very risky. And I think the bomb helps us be less risky. If they bring back Murray, I'm going to quit. There. Valid. Zipcaster might be kind of cool. I think Zipcaster is like the one like Squid Surge map. Because like, especially with burst bomb weapons, like you can get some ridiculous flank angles. And like you can get some ridiculous pathing on the buildings themselves. Like under the map and everything and around the map. Which could be kind of cool. We do have a pick, we can start to look to fight them, but again, this is another situation, it's a 1v1. I do like in this situation, you do a good job of not overcommitting to any play. Now that you know you have teammates with you, you can be a little bit more aggressive. I feel like we probably, like, we're panicking a little bit too much. I'm seeing us get our special and just immediately popping it multiple times. The first time, I could see the case for it. Here, I don't see the case. Because this person's, like, right in your face. Like, this person's here. There's no way that the Tri-Strike is better value than using your main weapon in the situation. Like, this is like a panic special, and we want to avoid this. Because, like, we have 2 balls right now, and we're fighting a 2v1. And if we get picks, it's like, this Tri-Strike is really, really good. And we need, contextually with this match, we need a really big push to come back, which we have the points potentially to start rallying and keeping the basket open enough to potentially, like, KO. But this this special is super high value. But even if we didn't need the special, like, this is very awkward. Just use your main weapon. Have confidence in your main weapon. Win the 2v1. But it also is worse because we need the push. Yeah, this is a scary position. Like, we're just kind of sitting out in the open. We can assume the enemy teams push back with how our teammates are positioned, but there's a chance we can get dropped on there. Now we can definitely move forward. I don't think there's anything that we're going for there. Oh. Yeah, if your teammates are gonna get the ball, let one of them do it. I like that you go back and get clams. But I don't think we need to use Tri-Strike there. I don't think there was any threat on the, like, I think we should know there's no threat on the plot where we throw our Tri-Strike. Again, I think we just have it and we use it. And we need to, like, get ourselves out of that habit. Yeah, it's tough. I don't think we have the timing because it's, like, really tight. I just wanted to see if there was potentially, like, a clam or something up here or something over here, but it looks like there isn't. Because I think ideally if we could pick this up and go all the way around and score this way, like, this is, like, the one time during the middle of the push where, like, you can catch them off guard by, like, taking this type of route. Because you know those people are going to drop in order to stop anyone from running in and scoring. But I think with the way the time is, I don't think the window is there for us to be able to get that. Like, if we start going around this way, like, we're going to hit this timing window, but even so, I don't think that we're gonna. I don't think we can score in time, so it's tough. But our teammate does take lead. So now we need to get our special again. Another good habit, just if you have, like, a suction bomb or some sort of bomb, like, throw the bomb when you're, like, moving out. Because as you're swimming and moving forward, like, you're going to get that ink back. So it's a really nice way to build up a bit of special of just, like, throwing the suction bomb when you come off a spawn. Because it's just, like, a free 15, 10, depending on how much paint is there. I think you can almost get, like, I think 20% from a bomb or something. But it'd be nice to just get that out and just be in the habit of doing it. Yeah, we have to be careful about committing to that ledge. Because, again, everything outranges us and we're by ourselves. And so we have to panic a little bit after all that happens. Oh no! Okay. We need to get to mid and we need to paint for our special. Are we running LDE? No? Okay. I like that we get the drop on them. We know where they're at because of the ball. Yeah, I'd be careful about trying to take that fight. I think we just hold our position because they have to push into us in this situation. This is such a scary ending. I think that pick seals it. So at the very end, I would just hold the right side. I wouldn't try to, like, if you drop on someone and you're still holding the right side to get the pick, that's fine, but I'd be careful. There's a second where you try to like push into mid. I don't think we need to do that. Like, you have a jet that's watching the plat that can like secure that area. Especially this weapons kit has like rain, has mist, like it's chilling. Yeah, I think the big things here, we need to be more thoughtful about, like, we have to avoid the panic specials. We need to have a game plan. Every time that we use a special, we need to have some sort of game plan. We're just kind of using it to use it. And I can tell that like we're uncomfortable winning a fight, or we're uncomfortable helping our teammate, and we feel like special is just going to do a better job because specials are strong. But contextually, in some of these situations, either you're zoning off no one and getting no value out of your specials, or you're actually a liability. Like when you're helping your teammate on this right side over here, you're over here, and then like two of them are fighting over here. When you pop Tri-Strike here, like you leave your teammate open, and if they get the first pick on your teammate, then they just run at you while you try to get the rest of your Tri-Strikes out. So try to be a little bit more disciplined. Come up with a game plan, and like, especially like hold for like the big play if you need it. Because you have to kind of visualize how your team's winning the game, and I think pushing on this map to get a big push, you want to push through while this bridge is down. You want to push through mid, and in order to be able to break and like get these people out of this area or like move them off of the plat area, we need like Tri-Strike is a really good resource and tool to be able to do that. Probably should have my gameplay reviewed. Yeah, right now we have stuff closed just because all the replays are going to get deleted tomorrow. But starting tomorrow, I think, or maybe the day after. I think it's tomorrow though. But starting tomorrow, we're going to open up reviews back. So it's first come, first serve. So you have to play a game on the new patch in order to get a replay code from the new patch that we can use. But yeah, it's totally available to anyone. All you need to do is join the Discord that we have set up, and that just helps me organize everything. But yeah, I would definitely appreciate that. And if you have any specific questions or issues that you want to work on, please put that in the notes. There's a little bit of a template there, and thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate you. But there's a little bit of a template, and any information that you're looking for specifically, I can like go over it specifically. So yeah, that was one thing. The other thing is like we need to have better awareness around the open area, like open areas. Specifically, we're talking about like both glass, like the glass that we're trying to push. So like this is the glass area. So if we're pushing through on our side, or if we're in mid and we're pushing the enemy side, we have to be very careful. It also happened around this rail as well. The couple things that we need to be considerate of is we need to put, like, we need to have context of this match in terms of things like range. It's like the range of weapons. And sometimes, depending on, like, let's say that you were playing against, I don't know, what do we outrange? Maybe like a Luna Blaster? I don't really know what we outrange as our weapon. Maybe like cover. I don't know. There's not. I feel like nothing I feel like we outranged nothing. Maybe like a sploosh. We'll just say a sploosh. So if like the enemy team had a sploosh or something and we know we're taking, like we have an isolated fight with the sploosh, then we can try to be a little bit more aggressive in certain situations. But contextually in this match, we either have equal range and a worse fighting sub, or like we just get totally outranged by the rest of their team. Like all these weapons like outrange us. So when that happens, we never want to be sitting out in the open and taking a fight with the enemy team. And there was a lot of times, especially like when we're holding this right side, like I'm okay with us holding this side just because like Jett can do a really good job over on plat. But we can't play for like fights. And we have to be respectful of the fact of like we're playing a weapon that can't fight a lot of these weapons very well. Unless you are like coming from a shorter distance or you're like dropping on them or, you know, like you dropping like down here at the very end when the ball is running in, like they're running a clam under mid. Like when you have an informational advantage, like we're chilling, but we can't go for these plays when it's out in the open. And that's like some of the game awareness that you talked about. Yo, what's up, Fade? Can I do it right now? Replays are going to be closed until the next patch, which should be tomorrow, I think. So right now we're not open for submissions, but starting tomorrow we'll be open for submissions. Oh, welcome in, welcome in. And then the other thing in terms of context that we want to think about. So yeah, there might be certain situations where like, if you take the enemy wiper, for example, like if they can find the fight against you as a splash, like, oh, they'll take that any day of the week. If they see a brush, oh, they'll take that any day of the week. But if you see something like, you know, if they have to take a fight in the open against the Jett, then it's like, I'm not looking to take that fight. Maybe I'll paint for missiles. Maybe I'll, you know, get a beacon down. Maybe I'll look to move somewhere else. And like, there's certain weapons, there'll be conditions of, you know, if someone, like if the Jett's down, then I can kind of take fights as the wiper, or, you know, if I'm taking this fight and, you know, I have this informational advantage, I can try to commit and go for a specific play and like things are good, but we can't really, like we're not really thinking through the context in all these situations. The other thing I would point to, which even still, like if they had their main weapon, you're still in a bad spot. But like when you get a pick over here and you start pushing up this ramp toward this rail over here, like when you started, like you had like a second and a half that took you to get up to this wall and climb it to get up to your rail area. And like as you were climbing it, you saw that their shot had a special, like they had Zuka out or Zuka ready. And like they were also backing up. So like as we start climbing up, like the second that we jump up here and we start moving forward, because we started moving forward and just shooting, the second we start moving forward, we're out in the open. If we're playing like back here, we can like potentially drop, or we can like, you know, play the wall. But if we see that this person has Zuka, we probably can like bait them into using it and still stay alive. I was playing with, yeah, the lag was pretty rough in certain spots. So in this situation, like in this game specifically, yeah, there's definitely some tough spots, but also welcome in. But we want to be careful just in terms of overall awareness, just moving forward. We need to be careful about when the enemy team has special and we're like looking to potentially push into them. Those are kind of the biggest things, is that we leave ourselves out in the open to potentially get punished. And in this game, we actually got punished quite a bit. Some games we won't get punished quite as much, but we got pretty punished throughout this match. Outside of that, you know, like for the times that you were sitting out in the open and potentially got punished, there were also other times where you were, you know, doing a really good job playing around the walls, or you were patient, waiting for that perfect opportunity to drop on them. And like you got a couple of really important picks by doing that, but we just want to be careful and not be a liability in certain situations. And definitely be just smarter about our special. Oops. But overall, I think the game was solid. I'm gonna continue to speedrun because I'm running out of time and we still have reviews that we need to get to. Yeah, I think this was generally fine. There's definitely spots. Also, Mert, if you're still here, wait, what team do you play for? And how did your low ink go? I think I reviewed one of your games when I was with Lily. I think the other thing that we could be doing in terms of specials is there certain situations where we should probably be focusing on painting for specials. Like there were spots where we were like 70, 80% the special and we didn't prioritize just painting it. And so we didn't have special when we could have potentially wanted to use it. Just Squidding, that's the name. I was gonna say, I couldn't think of this as the letter J, but yeah, Just Squidding. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, hopefully you had a nice low ink. I forgot which game we watched of you all, but I think y'all did a great job. Great job. But yeah, I gotta keep going. Usually I ramble for a while, but we're on borrowed time getting this stream out. I was streaming a little bit late. But if you have any questions, please let me know. I can get you the link with the review here afterwards. Foreign Losers game. Oh, nice. I'm sure it was a very tiring and long weekend for you all. But I'm glad things went well. Or I don't know what your expectations were, but even if it wasn't, I don't know if Gamma's like I don't know if y'all are happy with Gamma or if that's like disappointing or about what you're expecting. But a long run's always a fun time. I'm gonna have to read the stringer stuff in my own time. Because again, we don't got the time. So we have soup. Say soup. And they're playing V-Splash. This is X rank, and they said about 2005. So they had some notes. I'd like to get Rainmaker to about 2100. It's fluctuated between 1800 2k during the season. Overall in game, I feel like I didn't have much of an impact. Yeah, Humpback's a tough one. Kept running out of ink, kept getting killed by brush. Also felt like I was feeding. Gotcha. All right. So yeah, we'll have to think about some of this stuff contextually. But playing shooters on this map is always a little bit tough. Yo, what's up, Soup? Hello. Yeah, we're just getting started, so you are totally fine. Hope you're doing well. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the upcoming patch. If you've taken a look, but in the meantime, we'll take a look at this. Rainmaker on this map, very generally, relatively easy time to get to this first checkpoint. When we're pushing it, if the enemy team's defending, like they're going to be sitting up here, they may swing wide on us. We have to be careful about some of these different options. But usually we can kind of shove them out with the Rainmaker or different specials. We can play pretty patient. So a lot of times teams will just generally wipe and then you just take it to the first checkpoints. There's a lot of maps that are like that. The biggest thing is after the first checkpoint, trying to push through this area is very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And that's one thing that I'd want us to see from our team is like, because usually this is what this map is like which team gets the farthest past the second checkpoint. They had no problem. Oh no. So a couple of things, like when it comes to our comp, like Hammer is one thing that can sometimes brute force. Leader sometimes has a hard time in this type of position getting picks. I actually don't know which angles it can be in, but it probably sits somewhere around mid, just very generally, and like it can get some angles, but it's probably pretty awkward for them. As a V-Splash, like you can definitely get crab somewhere in this type of area. And like the farther up you can go, the better, but obviously there's more risks. Sometimes you can even get on top of these little uninkable areas, depending on how far you can push up, and get a crab up there, and you can get some good angles. But there's a lot of things you have to think about when we're pushing past the first checkpoint. The first thing is that we have to be careful. Yo, what's up, Sage? Welcome in, welcome in. The first thing is we have to be careful about anyone sharking kind of this whole area, but specifically this little shaded region. People love sharking here, and so we can poke at them with a burst bomb. Like when our team's trying to push, like get paint over this area, and also just like check to see if there's someone there. That can usually be pretty important. Like I said, we can get crab in mid, but ideally if we can get crab like in this type of straight line, usually this can break open the map. And the other thing is like we can play with our teammate specials, which Wavebreaker is like okay. Hammer's hit or miss, but has huge, like this hammer can potentially break open the map, but it's not super reliable. Tri-strikes are pretty good at giving space. So when we are trying to get into a position, if we're not picking up the Rainmaker, I'd probably have like leader should be picking up Rainmaker. This should be pretty just known. Like leader should be getting Rainmaker here. But I would probably work with our Neo Splash. Don't like the new patch notes. Oh no. Must not be. Must not enjoy the zapping shot. I'm excited. I don't know how strong certain things will be, but if I can be relatively successful with orange zap, I'm chilling. But yeah, I would try to pair up with this. Or in certain cases, sometimes you can open up space for your wiper. But we do have to be careful about enemy leader when we're pushing in. I'm guessing leader probably sits up here for the retake, but I'm not totally sure. They could potentially be back here. I don't know. The other thing is that you also can go for this type of flank, like far left. Like while your team's pushing this way, you can go for a left flank. Yo, what's up, Jams? Hello, hello. How was the stream? What were you up to? Potentially some Splatoons. Nice, nice. Rat raid, let's go. Let's go. I hope everything went well. I hope the rats are also doing well. But thank you so much. They patched Shiver Skip? Oh, did they? I thought that they didn't. I know they patched the other part. Oh, yeah. I forgot. Yeah, you're looking at it from a speedrunner perspective, Sage. I forgot about that. Every patch. That feels like most modern games. Turf War? Nice, nice. Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Jams is a very, very chill stream. I always say it, but like, respected streamers with very good vibes. And Jams is a... Sitting in Jam stream is always the best. And they have so many rat friends. So many rat friends. We love them. They play a lot of Splatoon. You know, they've played... I've watched them play Monster Hunter. That one Horizon game that's on PlayStation that I think is also on PC. They play a lot of different stuff, but always a good time. Always really fun. Jams is super like interactive with chat and just very, very relatable, very laid back. Just good vibes. Always love the good vibes. Horizon's so good. I've never played the game. I probably should at some point, but I played Breath of the Wild and I'm like, nothing's ever gonna top this game. But watching Jams play it seems like a lot of fun. That was a little bit ago, but I don't know. That game does seem pretty cool. That was so bad. Well, to be fair, you played like you got pretty far into the game before you recognized that there was like a skill tree and stuff that you could like level up. So I think like I heard that game was like actually pretty hard. So the fact that you weren't properly equipped and leveled up like scaling with the rest of the game probably was probably was part of it. And I used to mouse and keyboard. Yeah, I can't play games with mouse and keyboard. It's just not for me. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for the raid. For anyone joining, we're doing some VOD reviews. All the replay codes get deleted tomorrow. But if anyone plays Splatoon and would like to get their games replayed, I can hopefully provide some tips and some pointers to help people improve. That's kind of the name of the game. But yeah, thank you for popping in. Thank you so much for the raid, and I look forward to be able to check out your streams. I know that you've been a little bit more like active with streaming lately, which has been awesome. But I've been trying to be a little bit more respectful with my schedule, which I'm not doing today. So I haven't been able to catch as many streams as I was able to before, but I will be back. So yeah, we were going through the what's it called? Going through just like getting past the second checkpoint. The other thing throughout this map, and especially in mid, this uneven terrain in mid is like really just frustrating. I would generally say that we want to play the sides. In neutral, it's also really important. You don't have to do it. And if you have a leader, they're probably sitting up here. But we want to make sure that this area is like staying our color and staying painted. Because a common mistake I'll see people make and teams make is that they focus too hard on the offense and like looking to flank around, that they just leave open this first checkpoint. I've seen it happen like quite a bit. So we have to be a little bit careful about that. But otherwise, yeah, it's slowing down, and we have to play very patient around mid. We can also potentially get crabs up in these types of situations and be able to help with these types of pushes or help over here. There's also an ability to like push across to this right side. But in general, I think playing wide, and especially as a splash, like painting wide, is very important. So like your Neo Splash might do a good job of it, but if they're not, just try to keep like these sides painted basically at all times, and be careful when you're encroaching in the mid. It's not easy. I need more reps on it myself, but I would imagine we play this pretty slow until we have like those good opportunities. Or if we can follow up with our teammates. Need to stop playing only during Splatfest. Splatfests are definitely a good time for like Turf War stuff, because I get to do some rank stuff. Tricolor is always a good time. Although the map this time was a little bit awkward, but yeah, if you ever need someone to play with for open or whatever, feel free to do so. Yo, Cherry, holy raids. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. How are you, Cherry? 3 hours of Splatfest, let's go. How is the stream? How is life? How is everything? 5 million? Real. Cherry brings a crowd. Also playing Splatoon. Nice. What were you up to? My games were honestly, you're not streaming Splatoon if you're not coming out of it saying my games were but yeah, what's been the recent weapon? I know you've been kind of hopping around to some different stuff. I'm not sure if you're looking to buckle down on something specific, or if you're kind of just playing some different stuff. NZAP, nice. That's been when I've been playing like solo queue and stuff. NZAP's definitely been the go-to, and they recently announced the patch notes for the upcoming patch. I think it's tomorrow. Don't quote me. It's tomorrow or the day after. But yeah, Zap's gonna be even stronger, and it's already in a pretty good spot. So if you are a Zap fan, we are eating good. Trying more shooters. Yeah, shooters are generally in a pretty good spot. So I'm a shooter fan, so I'm a bit biased, but I think there's a lot of flexibility and good options. Can't reply on mobile? Wait, really? I didn't know that. But yeah, glad to see the Zap play. I'll have to go back to the VODs and catch how it is. I feel like I'm always hit or miss when it comes to aiming with that weapon. I don't know why Zap feels like harder to aim with than like other weapons. I don't know. Or like other shooters. It moves like too fast almost for its own good. Like it has so much range and you go so fast it's always a little bit scary. But yeah, thank you so much for the raid. And yeah, Cherry is definitely appreciate the raid. Get some water, get some food, probably get some sleep as well. But yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Cherry does a lot of like social media content, a lot of Nintendo content, specifically Splatoon, some Mario Kart as well. But always very interesting, always very entertaining, and again, a good time. So definitely check them out on all the socials. Do you still post? I don't know if you're still here, Cherry, but do you still post like TikTok stuff? I haven't been on TikTok quite as much lately, but I think even before, I don't remember if I initially rated you or you initially rated me. I think I initially rated you, but I'm like, oh wait, this person I've seen them before on TikTok. I haven't posted in quite a bit. I don't know how it was crazy because you just like happened to show up on my algorithm and I'm like, I don't know. It was one of those like, oh wow, even on the internet, like it's a it's a small world. Posting on YouTube content, I feel that. I totally feel that. Especially with the recent like they lowered like the amount of subscribers that you need in order to what's it called? In order to like start monetizing. Like I want to start making pennies on my videos. That's the dream. I want like 7 cents after a month of videos. Taking over my mind. That's real. Didn't expect you to be a TikTok person. Come on. I don't know. Sometimes my brain is just like fried. I need to endlessly scroll. I feel like everyone just has those days where you just like don't want to turn on your brain and TikTok's just too addictive. No one should be a TikTok person, but once you've committed, it's like there's no going back. Although every so often, like recently, there's just like they'll do like a reset on like it feels like they reset my algorithm, but I don't know why. And it's always like surprising. Because I was getting I always said it like jokingly, but I'm like, oh man, I never got like all those because I never heard of TikTok before I used it. I always heard of it as like the app where like people are like dancing and stuff. Like I'm such a boomer. I was like all I knew was like, oh, people like dance and stuff on it. And I'm like, I never saw that. And I always like made a joke. Oh, I never saw that. But my stuff recently reset like last week at some point, and I saw my first unironic dancing to music TikTok, which means absolutely nothing, but I had no one else to share it with, so this is my only outlet to get it out. Splatoon a ton more. Yeah, I'm excited to see where you go on the competitive side. There's definitely a lot of. I think the nice thing about Splatoon is like there's so many avenues in order to play competitive. Like you can just play solo queue, and that allows you to like play, just whenever you want to play the game, as long as you can find a match. You can kind of just pick it up and play. And if you want to join like a more if you want to play competitive with other competitive people where you can like voice chat and stuff, like there's pickup servers, there's a lot of people like actively trying to form teams. So there's a lot of really good jumping in points depending on like what your comfort is with things. So if you want to like go all in, I want to have like I want to practice multiple times a week and I want to play in all these tournaments, you can do that. If you want to be a little bit more casual and just kind of dip your toes, you can do that. Or if you just want to focus on yourself and play on the solo queue side, there's that as well. Local land. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot. How was how was the Cali land? I remember like Hammer. I think it was Hammer. Hammer like is kind of like I think the one that like kind of set everything up. But I remember seeing pictures. I don't know if it was on her account or if it was on like the LAN account or whatever. But I remember seeing like you in one of the pictures. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I don't know why. I'm pretty sure you said that you were gonna go to it in one of your streams, but for whatever reason, I'm like, oh yeah. It was like a clash of two worlds, which I wasn't expecting. But hopefully that was a good time. Lands are really really fun, both for like the social part of it, but also like like depending on how competitive you take everything, like the game feels so much better like not playing online and just playing on LAN. But yeah, so Cali looks really cool, and I think they're saying that they've already like planned like a second event, which is crazy. Um, but it seemed like there was quite a turnout, and the venue itself seems really awesome. So that is super super exciting. Did you end up having any of your matches streamed? Because that's always like a scary thing. Sometimes like I played in tournaments where I didn't get to be on like the main stage or whatever, but sometimes like they'll physically like elevate you, or like they'll do something like put extra lights on you and everything. Like there were some previous lands that I played in, and like they had like a main stage area where like all the pros played, but I wasn't quite a pro, but I like as like a newer player I had a chance to be over there. It was like super cool. There was one like amateur tournament that we did pretty well. And for one of the sets they had like a bunch of like a few people were like taking pictures and photos and everything, and there was like just a group of like people with like really bright lights on their cameras and stuff like all around us while we were playing, and it was so cool to like have the spotlight on us and like win the series and just like get super hype, and you know you feel like a celebrity for a few seconds, and then you're like, oh wait, I was just playing a video game, and it's not that serious, but it's still fun in the moment. It's always those experiences. Don't think you made it to stream. There's always next time, I believe. That's the goal. Find your way on stream for the second event. That's super cool though. I'm excited for you. Competitive Splatoon. It can be frustrating at points. It can be a lot of work. You can get humbled quite a bit and just completely get destroyed. It's all part of the process, but I'm excited for your journey, and hopefully we get some fun content out of it. Super fun, yeah, for sure. Lands are always like, meeting people that you've talked to like online, and getting food and doing stuff outside of the land. Land's just like or playing the game is like part of the package. Have a consistent team. Nice. Oh yeah. Wait, did your whole team go to the tournament? That's super sick. I didn't even think about that. I was improving. Nice, nice. Well, if y'all ever need a coach, just say less. Say less. But anyways, I need to jump into the game because I'm running out of time and we still have a handful of replays. So again, appreciate you. I don't want to keep you too much longer because I know that you probably have to run. But I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for the raid. And yeah, again, if you all use the social medias, obviously you all are on Twitch, but follow Cherry on Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, maybe other socials that I don't use. I don't know, but always great stuff. Gets the seal of approval, whatever seal of approval that I have, which isn't doesn't mean much, but yeah. So, anyways, oh yeah, and the other thing with Rainmaker on this map is getting the pop, and because we have Wiper, they do have 2 lethals. So we have to be careful about that, but if they don't get the initial pop, like we win the long term getting Rainmaker. So we have to be a little bit careful at the beginning, but we're chilling. Yeah, so the replays will open up tomorrow or the day after. once new patch is up. Because like if you submit something now, then it like the replay goes away tomorrow. So apologies. But we get the initial pop. Again, they're playing it slow. Get our initial special, which is nice, but yeah, then we just kind of get run down. So I don't think that death is necessary. Like I don't know if there's too much you could have done separate in that situation. But the one thing I would say with, oh my god, this is a very fast game. So when we're looking to set up for our special, we need to position ourselves in a way to like, it was the same thing I was saying in the previous review, but like one of the first things is that we need to, that's, I thought it was a roll thing. No, you're fine. I closed it for everyone and then I'll open it back up for everyone and then it's first come first serve. So now you're totally fine. But when we're setting up for a crab, like we need to have a target in mind and we want to like try our best to like focus that target. So I like the idea of like, you know, we want to hit this leader, which I'm assuming that's what you're going for here. And so I'm okay like committing to this play. The problem is we shoot that initial shot and then we like don't go for that idea and then we're just like awkwardly like, yes, there's probably someone over there, but we're not committing to any of these plays. So we don't get as much value as we would hope for. The other thing that happened when you first started shooting over here, I believe it was the other splash. Your other splash was starting to move right side. And then when you turn directions, I think that's what caused them to move around. So I like poking at the leader here. I would have continued the fire and allow your other teammate to push in. Because I want to quickly see it from their perspective. I don't know if something else prevented them from moving forward, but like they hear the crab, they're ready to move in, but like they're not getting any more support. Like if you kept getting a bunch of paint and that leader wasn't able to charge up, that's the difference between your teammate being able to like push the leader versus like having to stay in mid, is because you didn't commit to that play. And I think they like tried to position themselves to play off of your crab. But we didn't have a consistent game plan, so we were just awkwardly like I like that you target common areas where people are and you did damage and like you move people back, but we can't really take advantage of any of these positions because we're just like over here, over here, over here. So some of this we can set up beforehand, but I'm okay with the quick crab. But I would have just fully committed onto the leader, because the important thing about focusing right side here is the fact that like we have to move stuff. Like we got the initial pop. So like we got the initial pop and we have to move it to the right side, and the first checkpoint's pretty easy to get to. So if we just keep hitting this, someone on your, even if there are people over here, this leader, if they don't have to worry about the enemy leader, they can probably pick up Rainmaker and just like take the first checkpoint. Because this person is able to move forward and create space for them because you are hitting this leader. So I think you had like the right idea here. We just didn't commit to it. And it calls this like indirect ripple effect where like you prevented the the splash from moving up, which didn't allow your teammate to pick up the Rainmaker. And now like we're not doing anything with this. Yo, Pharaoh, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully you're having a good night and a good week. And so this is just kind of the ripple effect of everything. Which their team did a good job. Like, credit to the enemy team, they did a good job of like pushing. And part of the reason why they were able to confidently push is because your crab couldn't really, and it's part of the problem with this map is like you can't really hit them. You don't have good angles to hit them from mid with where you're positioned. In order for you to really be able to fight for mid, you'd have to like crab from one of these areas over here, like bunker or window. Which again, I like your crab idea, but we have to commit to it because if we don't get it, like it allows for that counter attack, and they did a really good job of hitting the counter attack. That's tough. For the brush in this kind of situation, helpful because I main splash. Nice, nice. I'm a splash main myself. So I like that you identify this person as a good bomb. The one thing I do want to mention in this spot right here is like this person's in trouble. Like they don't have paint on this side. So it's like your paint is on this side, your paint is on this side. So this person's like kind of sandwiched in between in this situation. So when they're sandwiched like this, like yes, they are a brush so they can like meander their way around and everything. But this is an important context of where you want to focus on staying alive. And you also have support from your leader, which they hit a nice shot. But just focus on staying alive. Don't focus on like trying to hit your shots. Just back up and continue to constrict the amount of paint that this brush has. Because the more that you're able to paint is the same thing with the crab. It's like even if you can't get the pick on the leader, it makes the life of your teammate so much easier, even if you can't get the pick yourself. A similar concept is happening here. Is like, you know, I don't know why we jump. I think we just jump because we're like panicked. Yeah, like the first thing is that we shouldn't really be moving forward here, or maybe we jump to get out of the ink. Yeah, we jump to get out of ink. I can understand that, but yeah. So we move a little bit forward when we stab them, and like throw the bomb at them. But ideally, again, the jump makes sense here. This is a little bit unfortunate that they get the pick, but the general idea here is that we want to just keep, even if we can't get the pick, which in certain cases we can get the pick, but even if we can't, just keep painting just all around them so that your leader has a very easy shot. Because if there's only like a little bit of enemy paint, like the leader can find the brush at that point. But I think this trade is generally okay. The enemy team has a crab, so it's a little bit scary. I don't know how they're going to get value here. Yeah, that's tough. It's hard to really say in this position. When you're spawning out though, one thing I do want to mention is that you can play up here. Like this isn't the ideal spot for splash, but it isn't bad. Like you can't stop the Rainmaker when they first like pick it up and everything, but you can poke at them. Like you do a really good job of poking them and doing some chip with your burst bomb from up here. The other thing is that you can keep this area nice and clean. And the other thing is that we are very safe from this leader that is a potential problem from mid. This is like a common defense spot up here. And I think in this type of situation, I think it's okay for you to sit here and stall. And while you're stalling, like, you know, get this type of paint, get this paint over here, and just like keep this area painted. Like this area is probably going to have like back and forth paint just because they need to throw bombs and paint to try to move forward. So I think you can actually get a pretty quick crab sitting up here. And if you crab on top, like up in this area, then that can help with holding, you know, having a good defense here. So that would be my game plan. If you already had someone up here, like if the other splash was here or like leader was here, you know, if there were other people that were up here already, then I'm okay with us dropping. But this is a pretty general, like up here is pretty generally good. Like we can cede a little bit of pressure here potentially, but we can't really push that too much anyways because, you know, we're scared of their crab. We have to respect the leader. There's a lot of scary things that are happening in this situation. Because this is like the one problem of it is like if your teammates start going down, in order for you to be able to help in this situation, either you have to take a very risky fight, which you don't really want to do because you get outranged by some of them, and you also have to deal with this leader. And if you want to get back to this position, Like, it's easy to be on high ground. That's why, like, defaulting to this position isn't too bad. Because if you need to drop, you're able to drop. And if you're going to drop, you can actually drop behind, like, because there's, like, this little block here. You can safely drop down here and, like, hide behind the block. And potentially stop Rainmaker that way. But when you drop out onto this right side, like, in order to get... I mean, I guess you could get into that position. That's probably the better play. It's still very risky, but that's probably the best play that you have. And just hope that you stop the person moving Rainmaker. Or, like, you find, like, an initial pick. Because, like, playing back here is dangerous from the leader, but there's also just not a lot you can do. I do like in this situation, you do try to, like, make the best out of it because you're uncomfortable taking a fight, which understandable. And, like, you're, like, trying to paint for special and stuff, but we're not close enough, and there isn't a whole lot for us to do in this situation. So I would try to use that left side at the beginning to give us a little bit more space. Yeah, because even here, like, at this point, we're almost at crab. I think we just stay up there and, like, look to pop crab. Because whatever you're trying to do against the leader is a liability. I'd rather us focus our crab to help with this than, like, try to get a pick onto the leader. Because the leader has a bunch of room to move in mid. So unless you get a one-shot, which is going to be really hard to get the one-shot combo, like, there's a good chance that the leader just backs out completely and we don't get as much value with the crab. But if instead we use crab up here, like, our team can push because there's cover. There's cover around this area from the leader in mid. So we can take these fights more direct and you can get a bunch of pain, a bunch of chip, you can really help on this left side by having crab at a higher position. Defense is one of my weaker points. Yeah, no, for sure. It's tough. Defense is hard in Splatoon. I think it goes without saying, but I think also it probably should be said in certain spots. But, like, it's hard. But I think the important thing to keep in mind is the fact that like, one of the key things, just Splatoon in general, is, like, any time that you drop from, like, your spawn, or if you drop from your plat, for example, it's like you're making a commitment. Once you drop, you can't undrop, especially on these maps, but you can't undrop from these situations in most cases, especially on this map. So I'd rather us err on the side of being up high and then drop if we need to. There's certain maps where, like, against certain comps, like, you might have an easier time playing around here, but definitely against the E-Leader, we have to be scared. Because this entire situation is going to be very stally. So either if we're going to be on the ground, we need to play down in this area, or we can potentially play up here. And these are things that, like, you can kind of learn as you go, or you can take time and, like, think through it beforehand, or you can watch other people and get ideas of how they play defense. As a process, you'll slowly improve over time, so it's something that we'll continue to work on. And again, like, these deaths against the brushes aren't really, like, your fault. I think I would commend the brush more than I would blame you in these situations. Like, they're immediately punishing you after you use your crab. And I don't think I can, like, the setup for the crab was the problem, but after that happens, I can't. Like, there's not a ton you can do in those situations. It's the mistakes beforehand that are causing us those issues. So, we talked about this in a previous review, but when it comes to, like, special, we need to have a game plan for our specials. For specials, my handwriting is all over the place, but it is late at night. So we need to come up with a game plan, which I think you actually had decent ideas here, but in certain cases we want to optimize. So, like, for crab, like, height will increase our chance of getting value out of crab. So when we're on defense, using crab over here versus using crab, like, back here is generally going to be better because we can, like, arc over this rail, We can hit this entire area. Wherever our teammates are trying to push, we're able to hold pretty well. So part of it is that. The other thing is like the idea of like what are we trying to accomplish with the crab? Like this crab over here is like stop this push over. Well, actually, your initial idea was to stop the leader, but like you hit one shot, like you hit your expo shot with Rainmaker, and it's really hard to get a turret shot or even a second expo shot because this person can literally move in any direction and dodge your second shot. So it's higher value to focus on the people that are like in this little somewhat choke, somewhat of an elbow. Like they can move this way, but if they start moving this way, like you still can potentially hit them. But it also allows your teammates to like move forward and push. So there's less stress on like you having to hit your shots because you're supporting your teammates. So that's like the other piece I think is important when you're coming up with your idea. Support like your team. Try to get them involved with whatever it is you're trying to do. Don't force yourself to like have to play perfectly and like mechanically outplay and get value with your crab. A lot of times just the overall pressure and the threat of the crab, as long as you can pair it with what your team's trying to do, the threat of the crab is more important than like you having to like play so phenomenal with it. Obviously, if you can hit your shots and like you can get a pick, that's great. But the threat, especially at the beginning, like I like the idea with the crab. You know, you back the leader up, so the leader is initially here, and then they have to like start backing up this way. And then you start turning and focusing over here. They recognize that and they can move back into position. But if you kept pressuring this general zone with your crab for the whole duration, that gives your teammate time, the Neo Splash, to walk through and start pushing onto this leader. And by pushing the leader away in that situation, you're also just opening up this entire area for your teammates to start taking this space. And when you're trying to get the first checkpoint, especially when you have pop and you have control of mid, like when you have mid control, the next thing is just like take Rainmaker over here. So like this is an example where like you don't need control. Like you can have control of the map without having to get picks. The fact that you got the initial pop and you're just holding mid and you get a crab on top of mid, like they have a hard time pushing, or if they can push, it's going to be on like the weaker side, like opposite of where your team, because your team doesn't have to worry about this as much if you're in control, because you're looking to pick up the Rainmaker and start taking it for the first checkpoint. So if you just focus on this side, you're totally fine, because that's where your teammates want to move. Like getting a pick on the enemy that's playing on the opposite side of where the match is going to be happening, like it's not as important because they're already out of position. Because if you start moving Rainmaker and these people are like over here and they're ready to drop while the Rainmaker's moving, like they already missed that window. So these people probably have to jump out anyways, which is the equivalent of you getting the pick. Because they need to start playing defense for the second checkpoint. So yeah, that game planning is really, really, really important. And again, I think you did a good I think you had good ideas actually. But whatever that plan is, we want to commit. And this goes back to like the perceived threat from the enemy team that they have to deal with the crab gives you more value than you might think. Like in certain points, like just having that threat, even if you don't get any picks, if you threaten the right people, which threatening their leader and threatening the only defense for the first checkpoint, that's way more important than like, and this isn't always the case, but like in this case specifically, like the threat is more important than any pick or splat that would happen like over on this side. That also requires your E leader to like know that they need to pick up Rainmaker, but if your team's already pushing in and you're just threatening this area, I think I would trust that your E leader picks up in this situation. I could work on trusting my teammates. You You mean like for this mid play specifically? Because realistically, what'll happen, we'll go back to it in like 2 seconds. The only other point that I wanted to say is like, this is a dumb phrase, but you can't undrop. Once you've dropped, you've committed. You can't undo dropping on the map. And there was a lot of times where on defense, we like immediately drop without thinking of those consequences, where I think it's better for you to play up top. Again, you don't always have to play up top, but in these situations where your team's going to be able, like everyone on your team is going to be able to stall this for a while. Like one team has to get a big break in order to stop this. And in these situations, like I like your idea of painting for crab, but painting for crab in this position versus painting for crab up here is like night and day different. And this one's a lot better. And even if the situation happens where this one ends up better, like you can get to that position by quickly dropping and then you have crab ready. But if you're down here and you're like, oh man, it'd be nice to be up here, like you have to jump back. And in certain cases, in this situation, when you were stuck here, or sorry, when you were stuck here and there was a leader like kind of shooting at you, I honestly would have just jumped back and like gotten back into this position. Like if you make the mistake, if you're fast enough, you can like jump back and like correct it. But in general, you don't want to find yourself in those types of situations. But yeah, the opening, I started moving that way because I saw them and I was concerned they would push me. Yeah, so this is a good example of like understanding the bigger picture. So when this whole situation happens, in this kind of situation, realistically, what should be happening is like you work with the Neo Splash to push this person out of play so your teammate can start running the Rainmaker. The positioning is a little bit different than I initially thought, but if we were already helping over here, yeah, this whole play like kind of works a little. It's hard to fully evaluate this play. Realistically, yes, there are people over here that can stop the Rainmaker, but if they stop the Rainmaker, like your team, there is a certain degree of like you have to trust that your teammates can help clean up. But part of the reason why you're Neo Splash in this situation, part of the reason why this person's out of position is because they're like following your, like you start crabbing this way and they're like, okay, well I'm over here, I can like flank around and like try to salvage value out of this crab. Instead of like, you know, they're trying to support your, what I would consider a bad play, which makes it an even worse play and it just like leaves this whole side open. Which yes, there is a world where like, you know, your teammates, because ideally when you start pushing this way, this wiper should be able to get more aggressive. Like this wiper has to back up because they're getting pressured because all of this stuff is still happening in mid. But realistically, this wiper should be able to trail behind and clean up these people. Ideally. They might, you know, they could potentially rotate this way and then they can help with the fight after your Rainmaker goes down. But this play, it's hard to fully evaluate because bad decisions at the beginning like cause a ripple effect. But ideally in these types of situations, like your wiper can play like over here. You know, they can watch this ledge if they are playing over here. But realistically, they're just looking to get behind and start pressuring these people. Because yeah, if you continue to pressure this, then, you know, if they flank around this way, then your wiper can probably see it. If they push this way, yes, they might be able to stop the initial Rainmaker push, but your wiper sees that you're moving the Rainmaker and then they start turning their attention that way. Like, yes, there is a threat that you're getting pushed, but you can also force the enemy team to like focus on the objective if you speed up the play. Like we want to speed up this raid play and keep the fight over here. Because these people have to start repositioning. And like there's a chance, because what ends up happening, because realistically, you know, you get pressure on this elite, like, so what generally would happen, you pressure the leader backs up. The leader's gonna back up to the point where like this Neosplash can't fully push them. The Neosplash can take this kind of position where like they can threaten pushing and they can start getting pain over here. But they're probably stuck here because there's a leader there and you can't get the full pick. So like this person starts moving up here. This person is out of play. Like this leader's gonna have to back up. Like if you keep pressuring them with Crab, they back up to a point where like they can only defend people pushing forward, but they can't actually help with the objective anymore. So leader's here. This Neosplash is sitting here. Your teammate picks up Rainmaker, starts moving it this way. These two people follow behind the Rainmaker. And then your Wiper also gets to like play behind them. And then this person may, you know, they may try to flank behind the Wiper. They may try to like push you. But none of that really matters because they're going to be like too slow. Like this is one fluid play if you get your Crab out and you're focusing on dislodging this initial person. Because what'll end up happening ideally is that these people start moving forward and then both of these people get pinched between your Wiper pushing behind them and your Neosplash that's already established with some paint. And like this Neosplash, you know, they can't push the leader anymore, so they can come back. And while the Rainmaker is moving forward, they can provide cover, and anyone that's trying to chase after the Rainmaker, they can get those picks. You know, they might get the stop, but we should be able to get a cleanup on these two people because we kind of have them like pincered. Is ideally what's going to happen. The execution is obviously, you know, it may not necessarily work as expected. Again, this map is very awkward and there's a lot of uneven terrain, which can lead to some weird results. But that's like the idea. That's the type of idea I would want to commit to. But we should have an advantage because their leader should be like out of play. Because we push them out of position with our Crab. Because this Wiper doesn't have to like, we can watch it from their perspective. Unless they position themselves in a really bad spot. But like this Wiper doesn't have to commit to any plays in this situation. Like they get to hold this type of position. You know, if anyone like if this person moves around and tries to drop, then they're able to like, you know, once this person drops, they get the free pick. But the other thing that they're trying to do is like depending on what this person does, like they can start edging their way and start cheating behind mid and start looking for a pick. Because like, because of the paint that y'all have, because of the initial pop, y'all do have like mid control. So like you can see this person starting to look for this type of play. Like this person isn't really in a ton of danger because they can keep this drop in check, and they can also like they can play defensive, aggressive. This person's kind of holding. This person's going to react to whatever else is happening. You know, like they get pressured by this Wiper, they get the backup for free. But at any point they're trying to flank around. They want to deal with the people that are on the other side of mid that no one else on the team can deal with. But they can't do their job because we didn't commit to the play. Because our Zap starts moving this way and there's no pressure over here, like it allows for their brush on the enemy team. Like this brush gets to play on this top left area and can like take their time and like throw bombs and stuff and it be meaningful because we haven't already started moving. Some of the stuff is a little bit higher level, but just to simplify, like when you have like certain ideas, just try your best to like commit to them. If they like, certain plays will be better than others, but when you're looking to like review and improve and everything, like whatever initial idea you have, like you have to commit to it and see it to fruition. Because like when we hesitate and start doing like multiple different things, it causes such a chain reaction that it's hard to fully evaluate. Like in my head, I can like, and again, what happens in my head isn't exactly what's gonna happen in a solo queue game, but you know, the play that I see isn't fully realized because of the chain reaction, because you didn't do that. The bad habit. You're fine. Sometimes it is good to switch targets, but I think this is a situation that you too quickly, it's like, oh, I can't get this pick anymore. You're not thinking about the extra effects that your crab has on this entire play. You're just thinking about whether I'm getting a pick or not. But the important thing about crab is that it provides zone control. It provides pain, it provides some chip, but even if you don't get a pick, you just control an entire zone. A common example that I like to talk about is on Museum. So if you use a crab in mid on Museum, one of the really difficult, yeah, this game was a fast game. You had trouble with the brush, and honestly, I congratulate the brush from their really heads up play and reactive play more than I blame. Like I blame you for not committing to your crab plays, because I think you actually have some really good ideas here that you just didn't commit to, so they aren't good plays because we don't see them to completion. And because of that, it leads to these awkward spots where we're not getting pressure really on any side of the map. And then once your crap's done, this person has the freedom to move around and punish you. So, yeah. No worries on there. But the thing I wanted to... I don't feel like going through. But on Museum, like when you crab in mid... I'll just show it real quick. It takes 2 seconds. It'll be easier to show than to set up. But like there's a certain crab spot that I do on Museum, and like I'm not expecting to get picks, but it speeds up the game, which is what we want to do when we're trying to push on like Rainmaker, or we're trying to push on clams, or even TC potentially. And like that crab doesn't get quite as much value in like something like zones, but it's really good on the other modes. It's easier because of the design. Yeah, for sure. But the one thing that I quickly want to point out is we'll do clams because that's pretty common. But the crab that I do is very similar to the type of crab that you have on Humpback, because there's a barrier between the like you can't directly hit the object because there's a barrier in the way. And what happens on this map? So let's say my teammates are pushing up this ramp here. Like, you know, we made a ball. So let's say my teammates are sitting here with the ball. They're like looking to push, but there's someone sitting on top of here. And like, you know, they're throwing bombs. And they can't push up because they'll get punished. This is like a great spot for us to get crab. And like, I'm just pressuring behind the spinner over here. Like, I'm not necessarily looking to get picks. I'm just getting pressure behind. And what it does is that if someone's sitting on this wall, the crab shots that I'm getting are causing, like, there's no paint behind this person. There's no friendly paint behind this person because I'm hitting expo shots back there. So my teammates can start moving forward. If this person pokes out, so like if this person commits to going up here and start shooting and fighting, then instead of shooting expo shots, I can turn and start committing to this person and help doing damage. But this person's like stuck. So sometimes when I go for this play, sometimes I will get a pick because I like catch him off guard. But usually either they get stuck here and the rest of their team can't help them. You know, there might be 1 or 2 people stuck here, but like their whole team can't commit to it because of all the paint and damage and like just the threat of my crab. Because I'm just applying pressure for like 8 seconds, like in this back area. So the rest of their team usually has to back out. And so either their entire team will back out and our team can just hold forward. You know, we can just move forward and there's no one here. So we take this area for free, which is huge when it comes to pushing on this map. Or there's like 1 or 2 people left and my teammates can start pushing from like, you know, a side angle potentially. Or, you know, if we have like a Tetra, they can like roll past and start hitting this back wall because this person's stuck on the back wall. And if they back out here, they have no paint and then they're just, you know, in a bad spot. And it's just one of those situations where like, even if you can't get a pick, you can enable your team to have a lot of really favorable situations just by controlling a certain area with the crab. The important thing with that is that you have to know that whatever play you're going for, like you have to make sure that that whole play is coordinated. Because if you just start shooting that area and your teammates aren't trying to push or anything, then that play no longer is good because it's no longer good. You know, like you don't have that pressure. So like even if you can control that area, like the enemy team, if your team isn't taking that area once you're suppressing it, like if your team isn't ready to push, then what ends up happening is the enemy team backs up and then they just move back into position and you wasted a crab. Yo, Moon, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And those plays are not like immediately obvious. Like these aren't things where I'm like, oh man, I just like, you know, I thought through that myself. And I mean, that is something that I came up with, but I came up with it over like playing a bunch of games, playing a bunch of scrims, a bunch of tournaments, you know, sitting in recon mode and like thinking through, watching back our games and be like, oh man, like we really struggled taking back their plot. And our comp does not have really good answers to like get splats on the people that are sitting on that back wall. And so like this is like the next best option that we can do in this type of situation. So it's hard to come to those conclusions, but the only way you're able to do so is if you start committing to plays, understanding what's happening, and then slowly evaluating over time. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Sorry, I'm kind of like speeding through some of these because I'm running out of time and we have 2 more reviews. Fortunately, they're both turf war, so it should be pretty quick. Yo, what's up, Mars? Hello, hello. I think you were popping off against me, if that was a correct Mars in solo queue a few days ago. So, GG's back then, but hope you're doing well. Hope life is treating you well. Alright, so this is what we call the rare turf war, because I do not like looking at turf war games, but I'm totally good to do so. In rare situations. And it's Splatfest, so like at the time they didn't really have any other games that they could submit. So, you know. Skip review, good point. Good point. We do skip review. No, kidding. Alright. What's her name in queue? That's just Chris. Okay, cool. I typed in, I don't know where I typed. I just typed in the wrong place. I'm fine with strawberry, but it's not mint, so no good for me. So we're playing arrow spray. So gold arrow. And then team strawberry. Aiming is kind of off, but managed to splat. Alright, respect. So they don't, we're just gonna look at this kind of generally. There was a competitive Japanese tournament that happened. That was like a Nintendo tournament for Turf War specifically. It was a really cute stream. The production was really good. It was awesome. Best song in Splatoon. This is a banger. Married to my favorite berry. That's very reasonable. I don't know what's happening here. We probably should be continuing to paint. I don't know the meta in terms of like fully painting versus not fully painting. Some of the teams in the tournament were like playing off of coolers and they didn't like fully paint because they would die with cooler and come back. I don't know. There has to be some strategy, but generally you just kind of paint, you know? We end up jumping into our teammate. Honestly, I kind of respect that. So the idea is that we wait till we have special, we jump in and we Booyah Bomb. Very married. So we get the pick, which is like fine. I'm guessing we're going to continue back and paint for special again. We're not as efficient with our painting as we could be, but I know that in Turf War we need to like we have to be very specific and like being very like getting everything painted, which is a little bit different than other ranked modes. But I will say in general in these situations we're painting over, like there's certain spots where we're holding down ZR and like we're literally putting 0 paint on the map because we're painting over a spot that we fully painted. And it's not like where we're getting like the edges and the cracks and everything. Like there's just certain times where we're just like, we're literally painting over like our stuff. But we finally get to play the game after a little bit. Our teammates are doing a good job of holding the fort down. We're almost to special. The first thing I would mention here is we were just talking about it in the previous review, but right now, what is our game plan with this Booyah Bomb? We pop the Booyah Bomb and then we're looking for something to do with it. Color lock or mirror match? I don't know, probably color lock. I hate pretty colors and I hate fun. So you get color lock for your Splatfest. So you're popping special because... Also, welcome in, Joe, though. Hello, hello, hello. Just got the notification. Welcome in, welcome in. We just kind of got into the game. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot of Turf War strategy. I thought it was interesting that you painted for first special, jumped in, and then used Booyah Bomb, but it was interesting enough. In this situation, though, like you go to pop special, and like you can see, like if you were like while you were painting, if you were checking like the map, like you could see that throughout this whole time that you're painting, your teammates are getting like splats, and they have number advantage. You can also check your minimap in this situation and just see like the overall picture. But when you like, I like that we're looking for a plan to use special, but there's a bunch of paint for us to like swim through and move forward. Ads. Oh no. Oh no. We'll wait for that ads. In the meantime, I'll shill my YouTube channel. I've been trying to make more content. Right now, a lot of it is reviews, just like condensed reviews. Which one of them like popped off? But I've been slowly growing with that. I have more general stuff because the idea is that there's gonna be like I have my own things that I want to go over, but a lot of common mistakes I see in these games that we review, I want to add and like make videos for on the YouTube channel. So any support is always welcome. We're 4 away from 200, which is kind of sick, but either way. So yeah, the first thing that I would mention is when we have special ready, we should be looking to like find a play that you want to use your special for before you pop the special. Sad Snookums. Only a special select few. No, the Snookums snot, the Snookums saga. But yeah, we're using Booyah Bomb like way too far back. We should be moving closer to where our teammates are. Cause like the range of our Booyah Bomb is only gonna like make it to where our team is. Ideally, we move up to like this position and then we Booyah Bomb back here. Like, Booyah Bomb their back area. Guess we can go overhead. So if we were sitting here, we can get a Booyah Bomb on their tent, which is a very common place for people to be sitting. We can get a Booyah Bomb on their main ramp, which allows for our teammates to potentially push into them. But using Booyah Bomb back here, there's not a ton that we can do. My only justification is that you want to paint for another Booyah Bomb with the rest of this paint, but like, I'd rather you just paint this and then move forward, because we're gonna get 0 value out of this Booyah. Which, like, maybe you actually do hit someone and then I'm proven wrong, but like, in general, this is like a low percentage, which it feels like you have special, you want to use the special and then get back to using or get back to painting the map. But instead of using you waste time using a useless Booyah Bomb, just paint in the situation and then move backward. I mean, like, get this paint first and then move forward and get value out of the Booyah Bomb. I can see your brain turning. Like, I see the wheels turning, and like, the idea like makes sense if we could get value out of the Booyah Bomb. If our teammates were trying to fight for mid, that Booyah Bomb would have been okay. But the fact that our teammates are like dominating right now, that Booyah Bomb, like, we have to move forward to get more value. How terrible the match was. I'm not too good in it. I'm trying to practice. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, everything that I'm saying, I'm not trying to like belittle you as a player. I'm not trying to like poke fun or anything. You know, it's just keeping these things in mind so you can continue to improve like as you keep playing. Gotcha. Okay, cool. I don't want anyone to like get their feelings hurt, and some people have been here longer than others, so I don't want to like, you know, I want this to be a very friendly environment. It's hard to give someone a review for a game that you play, you know? It's like all eyes are on you, and it's always like, yeah. I want to make this as welcoming and friendly of an environment, so I appreciate your understanding. But at the same time, I want to provide feedback that's like helpful for you. Because now you're in a position where you want to start fighting, and like, you don't have that Booyah Bomb anymore. And I'd rather us hold the Booyah Bomb for another 7 seconds so that we can actually get value out of it. Trying to improve your gameplay, I respect that. That's what we're all here to do. Full inkjet. Yo. The inkjet stop. Let's go. This is a spot here where we're close to our special, so hopefully we can get some value. So the one thing that I would say, like, when it comes to painting your base, like, trying to like get as much, like, as perfect paint as you can, like, makes sense. Once you're into mid, like, I wouldn't worry about getting that perfect paint over here. Like, it makes sense in your base because a lot of times the enemy team isn't really going to be in your base. But once you start moving toward mid, once you're in, like, I guess what would be considered like the mid game, don't focus too hard on like getting like, you don't want to perfectly paint this area. This is the point of in the phase of the game where you really want to focus on, like, you know, if the enemy team's pushing or your team's pushing, like, help your team get picks and like focus on like mid control, which, like, you don't have to sit in the center of the map, but like in terms of mid, like, try to just generally win this area. If you start getting picks, then you can start moving forward. But right now, your team doesn't necessarily need you to get this paint over here. So I'm going to take it back a couple of seconds. Oh, my girl Kelly popping off. I'm so sorry. So, like, this pick on the Jet is, like, massive. What I would recommend doing in this situation, jump back into mid. You're really close to your Booyah Bomb. This is like the perfect time. Get back to mid, get back to where your teammates are. If they're taking fights, try to help them in fights, but just focus on trying to get a Booyah Bomb to help your team, like, fight for mid and take control of mid. Because if you push toward mid, you probably could help clean up the person that you're your teammate got splatted to, or splatted by. Because what ends up happening is this person ends up getting the pick and then pushing behind you, and then they get a jump in. So like they're swarming you because you're sitting on like the edges of the map. Like it's like it's a chess thing, it is a Splatoon thing, it happens in a lot of competitive games, but like focusing on controlling the center of the map versus the sides of the map specifically is generally going to be helpful for a lot of different reasons. Partially it's because you can respond to like all these different, like you can rotate the different parts of the map a lot faster. Part of it is that you have better visibility on this map in particular, and in a lot of maps, like the sides are like lower ground. And then up here is like higher ground comparatively. So like if we sit on higher ground, it's a lot easier to react. And if we want to paint these sides, we can paint them from mid. But if we've already dropped over here, we're kind of like committed. My strat's so bad, I don't ever think of one. Yeah, that's as you continue to improve, like I can tell that you're like there's a certain workflow that you're going through, and that's like a good start. But yes, we want to be more proactive with that. And Turf War does kind of force you to like paint your base and everything, so I'm fine with that. But once you're in this part of the game where you've painted your side of the base, the rest of this match you have to really start focusing in on like your teammates. We don't want to just like paint the map and force our teammates to play the game. Because in certain cases you'll play against enemies that are also doing the same thing and it won't matter. But in cases where the enemy team is going for picks and finding your blob and getting that pick, like you're going to end up getting punished like we do in this situation. So you do get the initial pick, which is great, but you find yourself against two of them and it's a tough situation. And you can see like your teammate is in mid. Like because your teammate's in mid, they help clean up the play on the side. Like where you get splatted, your teammate's able to help because they're sitting in mid and they can quickly rotate over to the side. Like I know it's a very like obvious thing, but it's really important to keep track of because with my painting guide that's totally coming out sooner rather than later, sitting in positions to paint that are central, there's so many benefits to doing it and people don't often take that value. And they're just focused on like moving, like, I don't know, people just don't think about their positioning like while they're painting or while they're doing stuff on the map. But holding central position is really good in most cases, unless you're trying to go for a flank and like sneak up on the enemy team. This Booyah Bomb's a little bit risky, but very, very good. Nice pick. So now they're 3 down, so you can start moving forward. And your team is killing it. Kind of off when I'm aiming. I feel that. My aim is terrible, so. My current sensitivity is at -2. And even then it feels very fast. I am not good at aiming in this game. I'm too old. I'm too old. I'm a boomer. But, you know. Like, I don't think it's... Is it actual Gus? Maybe. I don't know. That's a good question. I think Gus has, like, a team tag. Because I think they're on, like, Square Up, the team. And I think they have, like, a prefix in front of their name. Could be, though. I don't know. But I don't think it is. I think it's a Gus poster. Gus imposter. But the one thing that I want to mention, like, again, I don't know if you're actively thinking about this or not. But throughout all of this, the reason why all of this works so well is like, okay, you get this pick. After you get this pick, you start moving back into mid. So from a high perspective, like you rotate over here, you get this pick, and then you immediately like get back with your team. And this is so good and so crucial. You always want to be in close vicinity with your team so that y'all can like work together. And I'm not sure if you're like consciously doing this or you're just like, okay, it's time to move forward. But like pairing up with your teammates is a very important concept in this game. Yeah, I mean, you did a good job throughout the entire game. Like you painted the base, which is an important part. You know, it's a thankless job. But you can tell that like when you're sitting on this side by yourself, it allows the enemy team to start pushing you from like mid and different directions, and they end up flanking around and splatting you. You know, if you need to go to the sides, if you know you get the Booyah Bomb down, you find an opportunity to jump on them, like that's fine, go for it. But always try to like get as close to the center. And different, like the center is going to be different on certain maps. Like on Mako Mart, for example, the center is like the stacks, kind of like you want to hold the stacks, and those are like left side, right side. So like what the center represents is going to be slightly different on different maps, but it's really important to want to be able to link up with your teammates. You always want to be within arm's distance to be able to help them out. Because if you start getting pushed, you want them to be able to push and help you. And if, you know, if this person is, if someone like drops down here and flanks your teammate, then like you can move over and help them. It's a really important concept to keep in touch. The other thing I would work on in these types of situations, like you're going for like the perfect paint, where like when we're in mid and farther, so like going for the perfect paint in like this area, especially at the beginning of the match, is totally fine. But once we get past this area, we just want to generally get good paint. I'm gonna go into recon mode after this, and I'm gonna show you what like general good paint looks like. Also my painting guide, check out the painting guide whenever I get it finished. And I go through it. But we're focused to, like, we're not getting as much value out of our paint. Like, because the enemy team isn't really going to interrupt the paint on our end of the map, it's okay to be like perfect with it. But this paint in mid and farther is always like, it's always going to be back and forth. So don't try to be perfect. Just try to have like, you know, decent control. Have a majority of paint. It's all fight towards the middle. I never knew when I first started playing the game. Yeah, no, for sure. And like Turf War plays out a little bit different than the other ranked modes, but the ideas and the concepts are still the same. So we want to be careful about that. But otherwise, I think we play it pretty good. But there's a few big things, like overarching premises, that I'd want you to think about. I don't want to overwhelm you. It seems like you're definitely like, you know, which is always like the most exciting part, like, you know, being early on in your Splatoon adventure and everything. It's always a fun time. But the first thing I would say is find target before special. Like if you're close to having your special ready, like your Booyah Bomb, it's really good to start thinking about like how we're going to use it. And when your team has like this much control of the map, if you look to Booyah Bomb like back here, there's not like, there's only like this amount that we're able to really do anything with. So like understanding where your team's general control is on the map, and like the more that you're winning, the farther forward that control should be, because your team gets picks and splats and they start slowly painting forward. And so your team was winning the early game, so you got to move your control like into the enemy team, you know, past this halfway point into the enemy team's area. So we want to make sure that we're moving up when we want to use our specials, and generally use them. It's not an exact science, but you want to be at like around this vicinity of where like your team has control, and that's usually a good indication of like when you would want to use your special. You know, whether you use it back here or whether you use it like here, or, you know, if you can move up and like use it here, like any of these are like generally okay. at that point, it just kind of depends. Like when you use this special over on the left side here, and you throw it over here, and that's where you run down and get the pick on the wiper, like you were a little bit in front, like your paint line was probably like back here, like around mid, and you were a little bit in front of it, but you were like working with your team, so it's like okay, you know, like situationally it makes sense. A little bit scary and a little bit risky, but you had a play in mind, and it ended up working out. 7 hours, holy. The other thing that I would want to mention is, so I want to just talk about like basically after base paint. Because yes, if you're painting base, like you just, you know, you kind of have to like paint every little inch and do all of that stuff. But after that happens, so after that initial point where you paint your base, you want to focus on, so like, I'm just gonna say like hold the center. Meaning move 2 sides. Like when it's needed, you want to play on the sides. Sometimes you can get a flank and catch the enemy team off guard by playing on the sides. Sometimes, you know, like if there's someone over here, you can like run after them and rotate to the side, and that's totally fine. But in general, it's really important to hold the center. The other thing that's important in these situations is that like you want to focus on general paint is infinitely better than like what I consider like perfect paint. And I'll go over what that general paint would look like in recon mode here in a second. Perfect paints. The other thing is that you want to link up with your team. Y'all ended up absolutely destroying the end of this game because y'all were all in the same location and you were like, you know, moving over to help a teammate, then you move back and like you're with the rest of your team. And so when you start moving forward, your teammates are moving forward with you, and then you find the pick, your teammates zipcastering in, and then like y'all can all work together. And this is like a cohesive, like team coordinated play. And this is awesome. You want to be working with your team, and you want to be pushing with your team. And like if your teammates are trying to fight, you want to be in a situation to be able to help them as often as possible. When I do hold the center, I end up dying. Yeah, so that's a great point. That's a really great point. One of the things that happens when you hold center is like you're gonna have to play a very specific way. So on this map, like the center is pretty open. So you can't just like, there has to be a certain time and place to be able to push through the mid. So like, let's say in this example, let's just say it's even paint. So all of this is the enemy paint, and all of this over here is your paint. In order for you to play centrally on this map, usually you're going to want to sit either like here, or you're going to want to sit over here. And why do you want to sit here? Because there is cover in the front. Like you can play around cover. You know, if there's an opportunity to move forward, you can move forward. But like you're not going to immediately get shot at by someone. The other thing that's nice is that if they try to flank from the side, you're able to spot that out from this position here. So like, if they move this way, you can meet them very easily. And if they back up after, because they're like, oh, they see me, I'm going to move back, then it's very quick for you to rotate back into this position. So like when you're holding mid, you have to play like patient. And this is like where you have to slow down And this is where like getting value out of your special is really important. Because if everyone's like holding mid and it's kind of this dead even game, then there's like, this is like where you're actually playing against the opponent and you have to like outthink and outsmart and outplay that opponent. Follow a look around. Yeah, and part of your sight and everything, I mean, unless you're talking about your actual like eyesight and stuff, but when it comes to like your awareness and everything, like your vision and stuff in the game, that's where having, and I'll go through this in recon mode, but that's why this type of position is really strong, because you have vision of one of the flanks and you have vision of mid. You can push if you need to, you can back up if you need to. And you can also expect someone else on your team doing the same thing. They sit over there because they can see mid and they can watch for the flank over here. So I'm going to quickly go into recon mode and just, I want to demonstrate the paint, but I can also show you a little bit about like the positioning and everything. Yeah, I mean, overall you had a really good game. Your team had a very decisive win. So kudos. So let me quickly switch to the golden arrow spray. And like, I think the painting you did in your base, like over time, you'll slowly improve and get better at that. Yeah, y'all had a really nice timely push at the end for sure. That made it as decisive as it was. But I think for the most part, your team had good control. So the important part that I want to talk about on Haggle it's like when you're playing Turf War at the beginning and everything, like if you want to go for this, like what I consider perfect paint is like where you're getting every inch, you know, like this is completely our color and like we're getting every inch. Like I think you understand the concept of perfect painting. I don't know what the actual terminology is. I just made that up. But like this perfect paint, like I think you get this. When you're in mid, it's a waste of time to go for perfect paint because it's going to be going back and forth but in his element. Dude, this is why I don't play Turf War. I'm too dangerous. So, yeah, when you're looking to paint generally, so like let's say we're gonna use this example here. Where you threw the Booyah Bomb, you get the pick on the wiper, and then you come back into mid. So when you start painting, instead of being like, you know, trying to get every inch of paint, try to be more general with your paint. Like that's pretty good paint and it only takes like a fraction of a second to do. And this is where you can sit in the center. Like you can paint this whole right side very quickly and stay in the center by doing this. Same thing here. You can get all this paint generally by doing this. And so you ended up painting like this where you're focused on getting this perfect paint. But after you get the pick, just, I mean, even from down here, you can, if you jump and everything and you get comfortable with your movement, you can get good paint by just doing all of this. And if you're in the enemy team base, just like, get a little bit of paint, get a little bit of paint, get a little bit of paint. But you see that I got all of this paint. It's not perfect, but I get all of this paint. And at any point, I can drop off the ledge if I need to. So that's one thing you can practice on all the maps. And again, I have a guide coming out to help with the decision, but you can stay in the center and still get like good paint. Again, you don't want to paint your base in Turf War like this because this is not going to win you. Like this many gaps is not going to win you everything. But when you're pushing forward, you know, you can sit back here and still get a lot of paint. You can sit over here and get a bunch of paint over here. And just get comfortable with this, and you can totally sit in, like, I sit in recon mode all the time and do this. And just get comfortable with, like, maneuvering. Because, like, all this little bit of paint that you get, like, the enemy team at some point is going to be fighting back from their side of the base, and they're going to, like, they're going to paint over some of what you painted. So you don't want to be too, like, if you get too perfect with the paint, you don't get that nice base coverage, and it makes it tough. Up and down technique for more effective paint. Part of my video is to criticize that idea of, not directly, but I don't like that method of painting. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's inefficient. Or I guess, okay, I guess for turf, I guess for turf war it's okay. It doesn't really work for aerospray though. And so what Suns is mentioning is that for a lot of traditional shooters that don't have as crazy of a box, of course the things change. So like a common thing, Jim did a really good video. The video is good. Don't get me wrong. I think the idea is good, but it's time and place. And I don't think this is a good way to approach painting in most cases. But the idea is that you can hold the left stick and paint. And when you just hold the left direction and you keep your cursor straight, it leaves a lot of gaps in the paint. And what you can do is like you can move up and down. Well, if I do it properly. Just to get the idea across. But like there's less gaps. There's still some gaps, but there's like less gaps in general than like this area over here. So while you're painting, you can like go up and down, and that helps kind of fill in the gaps. For turf war stuff, it might not be too bad, but I would say generally painting. All I'm saying is that I never do that, and no top player that I've ever watched does that. So there's other approaches to do it, but I do think for I don't know anyone that does that. It's very inefficient. Maybe for turf war, like if you need the paint, like if you need perfect paint in turf war, then I think it's worth it. But even if you're like, I don't know, there's no situation in an actual game where I would ever want to do that. Which is like a little bit of a spoiler to my video. But part of the important thing with painting, what do you suggest? So the important part about painting is like your overall positioning. The problem with like holding left or holding right in painting in most situations is that it isn't, like that's not what you want to do in like a lot of situations. I think Mako's a pretty good example. So a common situation that you'll find yourself in when you're playing on Mako is like, you know, you're fighting for mid, you get picks, like, you know, you push up here, you get a pick, you wipe the enemy team, and then you need to start painting. And like very commonly, like painting this left side is really important. And so you can, you know, you can do something like this. Sorry, I'll time it real quick. We'll start at 25. And I'm back in mid at like 18 or 17. So it's like 7 seconds. What I do realistically in a match is that I can do it on the other side. And I'll start at 5 again. So you hit all this. And then within 3 or 4 seconds, you're already back in mid, and you've effectively done the same thing. So let me. Yeah, like that. So it's like 4 seconds. And it's like, yes, this is like perfect paint, but it was also like double the time. And a lot of times you just like want to move forward. Just get your paint and rotate. It's really important to rotate. That's like the important part of comp. That you don't really have time. Because like if you're painting like this, it's like in the same time that I'm back in mid in 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, I'm all the way on like the extremity of the map. You don't want to be on the extremity of the map. So my idea, my recommendation, which I'll go through in the video, is like wave painting, which is like generally what people do, you know, just like an inherent way of thinking about the game. But in every situation, you want to think about painting in terms of like a fan, like a traditional like fan. So either paint in like quarter circles or semicircles or potentially full circles in certain cases. Like right here, you paint effectively in like a semicircle. And yes, if you want to, you can slow down the paint if you want to be more specific. Like if you want to be more detailed with the paint, you can go slower. But the important part of that versus like, you know, doing like one of these things. Well, I guess you can kind of do something similar, but it's you waste a lot of time. And you're not able to rotate as fast. Like this is another situation. If you want to paint this area, you can paint this and like you can break down most of the maps and everything is just fans. You sit here, you can paint in the fan. You sit up here, you can paint in the fan. You sit up here, you can paint in the fan. Like everything is just, the map, it can be broken down into a bunch of fans, and then you sit yourself in a very central location, so you can rotate back to mid a lot faster. So that's the general premise. I don't know. I think there is a purpose. I'm not saying there's never like a perfect way to paint. Like there's no optimal method, but it's really important to give yourself options. Like speed and the ability to stay in the middle and rotate is like more important than like getting perfect paint on like part of the map. And I would be totally open to hear a rebuttal, but I don't know. Again, I feel like I've just never seen, outside of like Turf War, like again, Turf War stuff, I don't actually know the meta. So I could see that method of up and down, like not leaving any gaps. I can see that being relevant in like Turf War stuff when you're like not interacting with the opponent. But when it comes to like actually playing the game, like there's never time for that. That time could be better spent doing other things. Like there's never been a spot where I like need that paint. You can move around with like very little bits of paint. Even if you're like a Sharky weapon, like a Volti playing Carbon, like if you watch Volti play, like they're chunking around through whatever paint exists. Like if you have more time to like color in some of the parts, like sure, you can go for it, but there's never a situation where you have like, you know, if I wanted to paint that far left side on Mako, there's never a time where I have like 7 seconds to just do that. That my presence couldn't be used in like other places. So I'm not, I don't know. That's my perspective. I think there's a time and place for all sorts of painting, but in terms of like practical playing the game, I've never I've never found myself in a situation, and in all the VODs that I've watched, I've never found anyone in a situation where it would behoove of them to paint in that kind of method. Like, the idea I understand, but practically it just doesn't make sense. Especially if you can, like, position yourself in a way to where that fan painting and painting in, like, the quarter circles can, like, it works with you with, like, the geometry of the map. Because, like, if I needed to paint this whole area, it's like... Or, like, if you go this way... I don't know. Because, like, you have to, like, walk all the way to the side, and then you, like, come back. Versus, like, I can just stay here and, like, paint center, and I'm already back into the center. So... I don't know. I would be totally fine for there to be a healthy discussion around it, but I just don't... I'm not convinced. Anyways, there's one more I have to do. I am probably going to hold that for another time, because by another time I could probably will just record it off stream and I can send it to them. But I do not have any more time. I've hit my quota. So yeah, discussion was actually worth it. I'm glad to hear. I'm glad that you got some value out of it. And again, I'm really excited for your journey. If you have any questions, definitely like feel free to ask me, feel free to ask others. Like, a lot of people in the Splatoon community love to teach others and help others. There's a lot to it, so, you know, over time you can focus on other parts of it, but we don't want to. Oh, whoops, I didn't save. Oopsie. But yeah, definitely, you know, take your time, enjoy the game. I'm gonna read Julie. They do a little bit of everything, but very chill, very lo-fi vibes, very chill vibes, and sometimes they're playing ranked, sometimes they're playing turf war, sometimes they're playing with viewers, sometimes they're doing salmon run. They kind of do a mix of everything, but wonderful streamer, can't say enough nice things. If you don't know Julie, definitely go and follow them. I don't know if I'll be back tomorrow, but I'll be back at some point this week. Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you so much for the review code. Thank everyone for the wonderful raids. And yeah, I gotta go. I can't waste too much more time. Take care, sons. Take care, everyone else. And I'll see you all soon.